Colleagues, could you check that you can see me?
Yes, we can see you very well.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes or so. So please just kindly wait for the prompt start at 1 p.m. Bangkok time.
Hello, hello.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers and panelists. On behalf of Sea Circular, an initiative by UNEP and COBSEA, funded by the Government of Sweden, I welcome you all to Sea of Solutions 2022. My name is Diane Anderson, the Associate Director of EB Impact, the nonprofit arm of EcoBusiness, and I will be your host here today. Thank you all once again for choosing to be here with us this afternoon. While I will make sure to bring up any important changes or announcements to you during the event, for simple notifications or comments, please do check the chat box. We would love to hear your voices and have live exchanges between the attendees and participants. But given the size of the group, it will be quite a challenge. So please feel free to post your questions within the Q&A function or post your comments in the chat box, and one of us will address it right away. The microphones and video cameras of all attendees will remain turned off throughout the event to ensure that there is no background noises or any other distractions. If at any point you would like to leave your thoughts or comments or introduce yourself, please do use the chat box function. Now, it's time to get into our program for today. It is my pleasure to introduce the first speaker of the day, who will be giving a formal welcome message to this event. Dr. Dechen Tressing, the Director of Asia and Pacific Office of UN Environment Program. Dechen has held management and leadership positions with the United Nations and has had 30 years of experience in national government and intergovernmental organizations. She has actively been involved in intergovernmental negotiations as a key negotiator for least developed countries. She has experience in management of complex development projects. Over to you, Dechen.
Thank you very much, Diane. His Excellency John Astrom Grondal, the Ambassador of Sweden to Thailand, distinguished speakers, panelists, spotlighted circular solutions, and participants, on behalf of the United Nations Environment Programme, I would like to warmly welcome you to Sea of Solutions 2022, a spotlight solutions to end plastic pollution in Southeast Asia. This flagship event has been organized since 2019 for Sea Circular project addressing plastic pollution in Asia Pacific, implemented by UNEP and the coordinating body on the seas of East Asia, COBSEA. I would like to express my gratitude for the fruitful collaboration with the government of Sweden throughout Sea Circular. We've come a long way since 2018 when the project began, and I'm very happy that you will hear from His Excellency today and Ms. Anne-Marie Alterp, Head of the Development Cooperation Section at the Embassy of Sweden in Bangkok tomorrow. I would also like to thank all our key partners of Sea of Solutions 2022, EB Impact in the World Economic Forum's Global Partnership Action, and the very numerous stakeholders from private sector, from governments, from major groups and others that are present today and have worked with us towards plastic circularity for many years. Friends, Sea of Solutions 2022 could not come at a more critical moment. At the United Nations Environment Assembly earlier this year, governments agreed to negotiate an international, legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution. We are now just a few days away from the first meeting of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee tasked with developing this agreement. They will meet in Uruguay. And ahead of these consultations, a multi-stakeholder forum will bring together governments, private sector, research communities, finance sector, civil society groups, including informal sectors, indigenous peoples, and youth. This level of stakeholder engagement at the outset of the negotiation process is very encouraging. Hearing voices of all stakeholders is indispensable to building a deal that enables a circular plastic economy. Over the next 2 days, we will hear voices as we share a spotlight on concrete action from stakeholders in Southeast Asia that showcase a range of circular solutions and how it can play a pivotal role in stopping plastic pollution. We're all aware that we're facing a clear and present plastic pollution crisis in the Asia Pacific region. Our region accounts for producing 49% of global plastic. We consume 38% of all plastic produced, and 81% of plastics in the marine environment come from Asian rivers. Plastic pollution threatens our health, nature, and livelihoods across the region and around the world. While the scale of the problem may seem daunting, the good news is that innovative, collaborative, and inclusive solutions addressing plastic pollution in the region already exist. Many of these solutions are being envisioned and brought to life by small and medium-sized enterprises. Here are a few of the many reasons why these themes and focus at Sea of Solutions are essential to ending plastic pollution. We need innovation that shifts the role of plastics in our lives by designing out unnecessary plastic and designing necessary plastic to be circular. Where plastic is necessary, it should stay in the economy and out of the environment. Given the wide-ranging effects of plastic pollution, collaboration among sectors is vital. Meaningful partnership can help transform the linear value chain to a circular one. And we need inclusive measures so that plastic that cannot be properly recycled are managed in a sound way. Solutions that support inclusivity aim to not leave anyone behind, including the informal waste management sector and vulnerable communities affected by plastic pollution. This means ensuring that gender equality and human rights are respected in the transition to a new plastic economy. Critically, these innovative, collaborative, inclusive approaches must address each stage of the plastic life cycle. The situation is urgent, but efforts to tackle the problem are underway, as you will hear over the coming days. And turning the tide on plastic pollution in Asia and the Pacific brings opportunities. By transitioning to a circular plastic economy, it is possible to reduce plastic pollution in oceans by as much as 80% by 2040, create 700 new jobs in the global south, and save billions of dollars in Southeast Asia alone. Acting now will spark positive change for people and the planet. Throughout this event, I urge you to engage, to learn, to share your enthusiasm as we work together to meet plastic pollution. I thank you once again and warmly welcome you all to the Sea of Solutions 2022.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dutchin, for such a warm welcome and crisp message, and sharing a little bit more about the importance of partnerships to a new plastic economy. I would now like to welcome our next speaker, His Excellency John Astrom Gordal, Swedish Ambassador to Thailand, to deliver the opening remarks. The ambassador is also accredited to Laos, Cambodia, and the ambassador designated to Myanmar. Ambassador John previously served as Deputy Director General and Head of Department for Consular Affairs and Civil Law at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Stockholm. Please join me in welcoming the ambassador.
Thank you so much, dear Diane. Great to be in this meeting. I am truly honored and delighted at this opportunity to deliver the opening remarks at the fourth Sea of Solutions, the largest networking event in Asia and the Pacific for circularity in plastic value chain, where a wide range of stakeholders come together towards solving plastic pollution. Sea of Solutions is part of the regional project Sea Circular, implemented by the UN Environment Program, UNEP. Great to see also dear Dr. Dutchin today, and the coordinating body on the Seas of East Asia, COBSEA, which is funded by the government of Sweden. I would like to extend a warm thank you to the organizers and its partners, EB Impact and World Economic Forum and its Global Plastic Action Partnership. The plastic pollution is clear and loud. We are today producing over 380 million tons of plastic every year, where up to 50% is for single-use purposes. Less than 9% of all plastics globally gets recycled. I actually did some calculations myself yesterday. I was thinking about all the face masks that we use here in Thailand and elsewhere. I think in my country, Thailand, I think it's a fair assumption that we make use of one mask per person per day, at least. That would be 70 million masks every day. Close to 500 million or 500 million masks every week. And none of them are being recycled. And this is in Thailand only. And then we can all do the math when we think about this on a global scale. This is just one example, of course. Over the last 10 years, we have produced more plastic than during the whole of the last century. The problem is most prevalent in this region. Southeast Asia is both a source and a victim of plastic pollution in the Pacific Ocean, including the South China Sea, peripheral seas, and rivers. The region is a major contributor to land-based plastic waste, leaking into the world's oceans, with 6 of the 10 ASEAN member states generating a combined 31 million tons of plastic waste every year. The plastics crisis is not only affecting the environment, but also a broad range of human rights, including the rights to life, the right to the highest attainable standard of health, a healthy environment, housing, water and sanitation, adequate food, equality and non-discrimination, as well as right to information, participation and effective remedy, all of which are protected under international law. We should also acknowledge that 2022 is an historic year. The UN General Assembly passed a resolution on July 28, recognizing the right to a clean, healthy and sustainable environment as a human right. 175 member states agreed earlier this year to form an international legally binding instrument by 2024 to end plastic pollution, as it is one of the causes behind the triple planetary crisis. It is, needless to say, it's high time for all of us, the member states, international organizations, businesses, and other stakeholders, to scale up our efforts to ensure a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment for all. We are observing the growing momentum of actions and solutions in the region in cooperation with the international community. The Southeast Asian countries are actively participating in the Intergovernmental Negotiation Committee engagements. This is not a challenge that any one country or group of stakeholders can tackle on their own. Only collective action can raise the level of ambition needed to develop an impactful and inclusive legally binding international instrument that covers the full life cycle of plastics used to end plastic pollution. The challenge our current linear plastic system creates to our societies, environment, and economies is undeniable. However, we should not look at this simply as a problem, but also as an opportunity to rethink our economy and get more value out of the plastics we consume by better design, circulation, and management. It is important also to acknowledge stakeholders in the whole plastic value chain and their key role in addressing plastic waste, both upstream to eliminate unnecessary and hazardous plastic products, and also downstream through designing products to be circular and ensuring that they are circulated or managed appropriately. Sweden's development cooperation with Asia and the Pacific shall contribute to creating conditions for regional cooperation for a toxin-free circular economy. To this aim, we are supporting the Sea Circular project in the Southeast Asia region. It is being implemented in 6 countries to inspire market-based solutions along the plastic value chain and advance policy changes towards a circular economy with a human rights-based approach. It is through this project that Sea of Solutions is being organized. To end my opening remarks, I would like to stress that Sweden firmly believes that a global agreement on plastics is the most effective and comprehensive global response to combat marine plastic litter and microplastics. It is imperative that we all work towards this aim. Dear participants, thank you so much for listening to me. I wish you all a successful event ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, for the inspirational opening remarks. Before we continue with the programming, I would like to now invite Kamala Ernest, Coordinator of Sea Circular at UNEP, to set the scene and share context and insights into what to expect during this year's Sea of Solution. Kamala leads engagements with governments, businesses, and other partners in the region to enhance the management of the plastic value chain and to reduce land-based plastic leakage into the marine environment. Over to you, Kamala.
Thank you, Diane. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, dear participants, warm greetings from Bangkok. First of all, I wish to thank Ms. Dachen Sering, the Regional Director of UNEP's Asia Pacific Office, and Ambassador Grondal, the Swedish Ambassador to Thailand, and a big supporter of our work to address plastic pollution in the region, for their inspiring speeches that have powerfully set the scene for us. I join them both in warmly welcoming you all to the 4th Annual Sea of Solutions, themed A Spotlight on Solutions to End Plastic Pollution in Southeast Asia. My name is Kamala Ernest, and I'm the Project Coordinator of Sea Circular, which is a regional project on reducing marine litter and plastic pollution by working with you all to strengthen the management of plastic value chain in the Southeast Asia region, inspire market-based solutions, and encourage enabling policies to solve marine plastic pollution at source. Funded by the government of Sweden, Sea Circular is jointly implemented by UNEP and COBSEA. We are delighted to have you all join us this year's Sea of Solution, which is an annual flagship event of Sea Circular that brings together regional and global actors, experts in plastic circularity, businesses, policymakers, academics, community, youth, civil society, and development actors. It serves as an avenue to exchange best practices, enable meaningful and impactful dialogue, and empower stakeholders to promote circularity in the plastic value chain in Southeast Asia. This year's event is especially unique. It comes at a moment of global urgency and goodwill in dealing with the plastic crisis. This urgency gained momentum at the 5th UN Environment Assembly earlier this year, when more than 175 member states and stakeholders endorsed a resolution agreeing to an international legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution by the end of 2024. The Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, or in short, INC, established by this resolution, will hold its first meeting in Uruguay just a few days from now. It is our aim to bring the voices from this region to the INC process through our collective messages from the Sea of Solutions. As we all know, the plastic pollution crisis is present and clear in Asia and the Pacific. Also, this was clearly emphasized by the previous speakers. The region produces 49% and also consumes 38% of the global total of plastics. Over the years of unsustainable consumption and production of plastics, to date, globally, we have generated 7 billion tons of plastic waste, with less than 10% recycled, while the rest make their way in the natural environment. Imagine a garbage truck equivalent of plastic waste is dumped into the ocean every minute. So what is the plastic crisis that we are dealing with now? First, we are dealing with the plastic waste generated today, which is polluting the environment, creating health impacts, disrupting biodiversity, causing economic losses, and affecting the lives and livelihood, especially the vulnerable people, among others. Secondly, there's an urgent need to reduce or close the tap on plastic becoming waste. So to avoid a future scenario of the predicted 710 million tons of cumulative plastic waste entering into marine environment in the next 20 years. Addressing both demands, impactful solutions across the plastic value chain with a particular focus on promoting a circular plastic economy. Brand owners, retailers, packaging industry, the waste and recycling industry, policymakers, investors, and the community at large play a key role. Sea of Solutions 2022 will spotlight unique and impactful circularity solutions across the three cross-cutting themes: innovation, inclusion, and collaboration. 12 selected solutions will showcase novel approaches spanning from plastic avoidance and alternatives to reducing plastic usage, removing plastic waste, and better recycling for post-consumer applications, as well as innovative financing models and incentivizing behavioral change approaches. In addition, the solutions spotlighted will include special attention to gender, human rights, and responsible business conduct. The first spotlight segment is on innovation, will take place later today, while spotlights on collaboration and inclusion will be featured tomorrow. So please stay tuned throughout these two days. Sea of Solutions sets the scene for what we might want to see collectively of a global instrument by the end of 2024. While Southeast Asia region is a major contributor to plastic pollution, we are also leaders in finding innovative solutions that can be replicated and easily applied across the plastic value chain. In this regard, we also welcome and look forward to your active participation in all the panel discussions lined up for you. The first panel discussion will start shortly on how an international legally binding instrument can be inclusive, innovative, and collaborative. Curated in partnership with the World Economic Forum's Global Plastic Action Partnership, this session will bring together insights of policymakers, leaders from the private sector, businesses, brand owners, youth representatives, civil society, and the investment community. The second panel discussion will take place tomorrow, will address on how an inclusive and rights-based approach critical to sustainable market mechanisms for plastic circularity. This session will focus on the importance of a human rights-based approach and gender sensitivity in circularity initiatives, and how to engage and support those most affected by the plastic pollution crisis. Therefore, once again, we look forward to your active participation in the sessions that are lined up for you. I wish to reiterate that Sea of Solutions 2022 will bring the voices of stakeholders from Southeast Asia region to the multi-stakeholder forum of the INC process. So let's make our voice count. Thank you very much for listening, and over to you, Dian.
Thank you, Kamala, for setting the scene for this year's Sea of Solutions and sharing what will be in the spotlighting sessions later on today and some of the best practices we see within the region. We would now like to share a short video with everyone here, an opening video to set the scene on this year's edition of Sea of Solution, which will provide you with some great insights of Sea of Solutions 2022. Please enjoy. I'm sure from the welcoming sessions and the video today, everyone got a good sense of the exciting program we have coming up in the next 2 days. Before we proceed with this program, I would like to invite our speakers from the opening session to please turn on their cameras for a quick photo opportunity. Dr. Dechen, Ambassador, and Kamala, please do turn on your cameras and we'll spotlight you for a quick photo. One, two, three. One more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Now, let's get straight into the dialogues and the presentations we have coming up for you today. Our first plenary discussions during our plenary discussions for this event are planned in 2 parts. An inspiring keynote speech to set the scene and context, followed by an enriching panel discussion. Our first plenary discussion is organized in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Global Plastic Action Partnership, the forum's platform for translating plastic pollution commitment into concrete action. This session will focus on the topic of how an international legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution can be innovative, inclusive, and collaborative. I will now like to pass it over to Jessica Chiam to introduce our keynote speaker for today and to start the first plenary discussion of Sea of Solutions 2022. Jessica is the founder and managing director of EcoBusiness, Asia Pacific's leading independent media and business intelligence organization, dedicated to sustainable development. She has more than 15 years of experience in media and sustainable development and ESG globally. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Deanne, and thank you to Deshan, John, and Kamala for opening this program. My name is Jessica. I'm also the founding director at EB Impact, and we're delighted to be partners for this very important event. Thank you to all of you for joining us here today for these insightful conversations with our keynote speakers, panelists, and spotlight solutions. This agreement among 175 countries to form an internationally legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution is an extraordinary opportunity for globally coordinated action. Ahead of the first Intergovernmental Negotiation Committee or INC meeting scheduled for the 28th of November, key stakeholders that are shaping the agreement from the perspectives of government, business, as well as civil society are calling for a UN Global Plastic Treaty which sets common goals, rules, and obligations that member states will be required to implement within their national jurisdiction. It is almost half a year ago now that I moderated a discussion at the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos on the Global Plastic Treaty. There has been tremendous momentum built prior to that, and since then. The political will, as well as public support, is there for us to implement a treaty that is fit for purpose, and as Diane mentioned, one that is innovative, inclusive, and collaborative. This plenary session will share insights on the system change needed for plastic circularity, the role of key actors in achieving this inclusivity, and the programmatic approach leading up to the INC meetings and the Global Plastic Treaty. It's my delight to be able to continue this important conversation today with key stakeholders and for the outcomes of this discussion to inform the INC meeting next week. The World Economic Forum has played a key role in helping to shape the agenda on this important treaty, and it is my pleasure to invite Christine Hughes, the Director of the Global Plastic Action Partnership and member of the Executive Committee of the World Economic Forum, to deliver our first keynote of this event. Christine works within the Center for Nature and Climate and is also a member of the World Economic Forum Executive Committee, and she also leads this partnership that is a public-private partnership that aims to shape a more sustainable and inclusive world through the eradication of plastic pollution. Over to you, Christine.
Thank you, Jessica, and thanks, Diane, and everyone for organising this event today. It's really lovely to see so many names and faces around the table, and so many of our partners also in the chat. So lots of great conversation going on the side as well. So thanks for inviting me. Thanks for joining us with the Global Plastic Action Partnership in this really important conversation. And I think there's a lot of momentum growing as everyone continues to talk about the INC conversations that are happening later this week. So really exciting to see where the rest of today's conversation goes. I also want to thank UNEP, of course, for the great collaboration that you've shared, not just in creating today's event, but also with the Global Plastic Action Partnership and our Southeast Asia Regional Working Group. I mean, the energy that we see that's brought by so many of these members, the Sea Circular community, as well as the National Plastic Action Partnership, is a really encouraging way to respond to this crisis. And as I mentioned, we've got quite a few other partners. I see Kim is very active in the chat, and what Kim and Jason have been doing with G-Diapers is really something everyone should learn from, and it's an incredibly innovative business, and we're very pleased to partner with you as well. So as many of you know, in the last decade, I mean, I'm saying things that I think have already been stated this afternoon, but Southeast Asia has emerged as a hotspot for plastic pollution, making up half of the top 10 contributors to mismanaged plastic waste that reaches rivers and seas. The economic costs are significant, with direct damage costs to the key blue economy sectors in ASEAN member states. We understand that this is estimated to be around $2.1 billion just in 2015 alone. So imagine what that cost is year on year. The ASEAN region accounts for about 20% of global production of plastic and waste generation. I think I heard a slightly higher number, but from a different speaker. So you understand where data is also very important as we try to both measure plastic pollution, but also mitigate it. We know the ASEAN region is committed to building a more circular economy by transforming the production and consumption pattern of its community to minimize waste. But there is no silver bullet to solve this problem either, and collective action is a must. We need a combination of both upstream and downstream solutions, and we need these solutions to come from widespread opportunities, and we need to find ways to implement them successfully. There is a need for coherent and effective policies, engagements with governments and regulators to ensure sustainable production and consumption along the full life cycle of plastics. And we need to advocate for a resource circularity model, something that's really founded on the circular economy principles and policies that aim to reduce virgin plastic production, increase production of processes based on energy efficient and alternative materials with lower carbon footprints. We also need to find ways to increase recycling rates and put in place infrastructure for much more efficient plastic waste management. We also need to explore reducing plastic waste leakage through the collection, sorting, and environmentally sound management. And again, I cannot strike enough the importance of innovation throughout this. Innovation and partnerships, both upstream and downstream. Circular economy is based on a few concrete principles: reducing environmental impacts and opening new opportunities for decent, safe, and healthy work. We must reduce single-use plastics that are unnecessary. We must retain plastics that are created in the economy for as long as possible through reuse, repair, recycling, and we must also end plastic leakage through collection, sorting, and sound management. We must also explore the development of new sustainable designs and materials that are degradable, reusable, recyclable, or compostable. As I mentioned already, innovation will play a key role in bringing solutions to the market. Many times I fear that people see recycling as the solution for circular economy. We will not be able to recycle our way out of this. We must find other innovative solutions, both upstream and downstream. And we must also look at less polluting material substitutes like natural materials, marine byproducts, and post-harvest agricultural waste that needs to be further studied to support large-scale transition. It's important to consider that reducing plastic pollution can create so many opportunities. Someone mentioned already earlier this incredible statistic that unless we generate systems change, some 700,000 jobs will be lost along the value chain, mainly in middle and low income countries. The ILO estimates that if we shift to circular economies, we could generate an additional 100 million jobs by 2030. So you can see that this is clearly an important transition for us to undertake. We must create the enabling conditions for businesses to create decent jobs in the new plastics economy, and we must promote sustainable production, clean technologies, innovative business solutions, and new models that contribute to productivity and growth. The new plastics circular economy needs more financial and economic incentives as well as increased investment. I see Ellen here from Circulate Capital, another fantastic partner, the Global Plastic Action Partnership. And Ellen can tell you through the many work that we have done, the importance of finance to be redirected from business as usual models and to be upscaled to support a circular plastics economy. This can be done from the government side, for example, through the taxation on virgin plastic materials or on certain other use of plastics. They can explore EPR schemes, green public procurement, and other ways to create enabling policies and financial incentives that catalyze investments into all of the things that I've already been talking about in the innovative space and the importance of managing waste infrastructure. From the investor side, we could talk to financial institutions and aim to get them to address plastic pollution by investees throughout the plastics value chain and seeking opportunities to invest in circular plastics as part of the broader climate finance strategy. Again, it's great. It's an important issue, and we're a conversation that is bringing together proof points for investors looking to engage. And again, I'm sure Ellen will highlight some of these later on. With Circular Lake Capital, we have already put together a bit of work pulling together some of these case studies, and I think we are publishing our second edition on the 8th of December. We'll invite you. I'm sure later we can put it in the chat box, but we will also have a webinar that highlights these financial opportunities and investments later. So thank you for that. As other speakers have already mentioned, later this week, negotiations will begin on an international legally binding instrument on plastic pollution. Really important discussions that will present the opportunity for stronger global cooperation and governance to effectively address the plastic pollution crisis. Transparency and accountable are critical. We need to track global progress towards the elimination of plastic pollution, and we must find ways for consistent data collection and monitoring. National implementation of plastic action plans will be critical to supporting a transitional phase where countries are closely observing the treaty negotiations, are waiting for more information on what will come out of these conversations and what requirements may come on national target setting and reporting. At the Global Plastic Action Partnership, we are observing a sharp increase in countries interested in engaging and finding ways to address the plastic pollution situation by working towards a more circular system. We strongly support these voluntary efforts by countries taking first steps before final agreement of this internationally legally binding agreement is confirmed. Our experience and learnings from other countries will be invaluable to form realistic requirements for a treaty. We can learn from their challenges, and we can also explore ways to utilize the tools that are already available to support the many other countries who will be looking to engage in this space. It will be valid for all of us to bring the data together, to work together, to collaborate, and to engage in a holistic approach. In a few days, I will actually be joining the first INC meeting in Uruguay. Sea of Solutions happens at a really, really timely moment with so many of us here who are present, and I imagine we will also see in Uruguay to bring the voices of Southeast Asia, the governments and businesses to the treaty negotiations. As many of you know, our core mission is to support partner countries in advancing your transition to a circular plastics economy, and we're working already with so many partners, and we look forward to welcoming many more. Based on this work and experience, I'll highlight just 3 lessons quickly, and then we can move on to the rest of the program. First, there's a huge need and an importance for national action plans to be based on evidence and thorough research. Solutions need to be context specific, and for that you need an inclusive, multi-stakeholder process to engage public and private leaders, local experts, and marginalized voices alike to develop a successful strategy that any country can take forward. Second, national implementation is only possible with strong coordination across ministries, public actors, and businesses, as well as civil society groups. Again, I see a lot of these voices represented already here today, but we cannot stress enough why it is that we pursue a multi-stakeholder platform approach and bring all of these voices to the table while also supporting the establishment of a secretariat that supports strong milestones and pushes this agenda forward. And finally, we are observing that many of the most essential solutions lack the necessary financing. We need to explore new and innovative financing mechanisms to advance specific solutions and innovations. At the same time, we need to actively engage and incentivize the private sector to invest in essential solutions. We know that the World Bank alone cannot finance this, but we must find ways for blended finance approaches to really support the transition to a circular plastics economy. I thank you all for your time and your commitment to this very important topic. Thank you again for inviting the Global Plastic Action Partnership to join you today. We stand ready to support and collaborate with all of you on this journey. And I now look forward to hearing from all of you and the distinguished panelists on this call as we all look to work together to transition to a more circular economy for plastics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine, for that insightful keynote with many thought-provoking statistics and ideas that serves as a great context for our panel discussion. And I really love what you say about how we will not recycle our way out of this problem. And that serves as a very good reminder to all of us here today. Before we get started on our plenary discussion, we are going to actually trigger a poll for our participants today. And that's going to come up on your screen right now. And the question that we really want to ask is, what aspect of the plastic pollution problem should the global agreement to end plastic pollution prioritize and address? And that is restricting single-use plastic, product packaging recyclability standards, regional harmonization, addressing inclusivity in the informal sector, as well as promoting and incentivizing behavior change. We'd be very curious to hear what your thoughts are as we go into the INC meeting. So please do poll. And as people are putting in their votes, I would like to now invite the panelists and speakers to turn on their cameras as I introduce them. Our four speakers today who have joined us represent the multitude of the stakeholders in the plastic value chain. And we have with us today Alan Martin, the Chief Impact Officer from Circulate Capital. We also have Zuhair Ahmed Kaushik, the Global Representative from the Children and Youth Major Group of UN Environment Program and Manager at earthday.org. We also have Karyanto Wibowo, Director for Sustainable Development at Danone, Indonesia. And we also have Dr. Wijan Simachaya, President at the Thailand Environment Institute. Thank you very much, speakers, for joining us today. Before we go into our panel discussion, do we have the results of the poll that we could share with everyone here? Okay, so this should pop up for you now. Very interestingly, the first two, restricting single-use plastic as well as product packaging recyclability standards, are up high there, and then incentivizing behavior change comes third, and then regional harmonization. So this is very interesting, and I think a good pivot for us to get into our plenary discussion as we think about what really needs to go into this global treaty that is being negotiated. And without further ado, I would now like to kind of invite all our speakers to give your perspectives on this very important topic that we have here today. And I would love to invite Ellen first.
Great. Thanks so much, Jessica, and really lovely to be with you all. It's such an important moment for all of us to be coming together and talking about this. I wanted to just start out, I think you mentioned, Jessica, the different roles that countries in the region and how they've been impacted. Is that right?
Sorry, I just was on mute. Yes, that's right.
Okay, great. So just as a little bit of background, Circulate Capital was created as an investment firm to invest in infrastructure and innovation across the value chain to prevent plastic pollution, drive an inclusive circular economy, and reduce the climate impacts of mismanaged waste. Our Asia investment strategy was designed to address markets where plastic pollution and leakage into the environment is the highest. That's why we're focused on high growth markets in South and Southeast Asia, prioritizing India, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and Vietnam. We've to date invested more than $60 million in total, and a large portion of that in India, specifically creating the largest portfolio of private recycling and innovation companies in India addressing plastic waste. Policy creates a tremendous investment opportunity. So even as the negotiations begin, it's important to recognize that we're already seeing these opportunities happen because of policy. It's certainly true in India, where a host of policies, including bans and EPR and allowance of food-grade recycled content and packaging, have driven growth for our portfolio companies as well as others. And it's also driving interest from other investors. And it's an important aspect of this work that we feel will certainly help us all scale and achieve the impact we seek to achieve with the policies and negotiations happening, but with plastic pollution as an issue overall.
Thank you very much, Ellen, for those perspectives. I'd not like to invite Zuhair to give his thoughts on what this plastic treaty really should look like.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm really grateful to the organizers and partners. And hello, I'm Zuhair. I'm from Bangladesh, and I'm the global representative of Children and Youth Network Group of United Nations Environment Program. I live in the city of Dhaka, and here in Dhaka city, we produce 45 million plastic bags, just 45 million plastic bags every single day. And we end up wasting 87,000 of tons of plastic every single year. So I think, Jessica, you were asking me about the global plastic treaty, how it should look like. And I believe that this global plastic treaty should address the provision of engaging civil society people, especially youth, in the decision-making processes, in the negotiation as well, because most of the time we find that governments are entitled to negotiate at the decision-making table, and where in some of the Asian countries they don't the perspective of youth and civil society people. We really want that civil society people's voice are heard in the decision-making table, and we often see youth as a very homogeneous group. We don't want to level youth like that. Young people are doing a lot of activities. They are researchers, they are early career scientists, they are activists, they are professionals. So I think this instrument should actually highlight the power of youth, how young people can be engaged in the process and the fight against plastic pollution.
Thank you very much, Suhair, and I want to come back to you on the youth voice later on. But now inviting Karyanto to give his perspective on how has plastic pollution impacted Indonesia, where you have come from, and what difference does this instrument, how can it impact Indonesia as well?
Thank you, Jessica. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Karyanto. I'm the Director of Sustainability of Danone Indonesia. A quick one on our company at Danone Indonesia. We are one of the biggest FMCG in Indonesia, which is we also use plastic as our packaging. We pledge, or we have the ambition to support the Indonesian government on plastic circularity. Perhaps most of you may not aware that basically in delivering our product in beverages, actually we are already 70% of our business is already circular through our usable model. Then we can discuss later on. But the thing is that, of course, back to your question, Jessica, Indonesia is quite heavily impacted with this problem. If we are referring to 2019 data, every year we generate about 6.8 million ton of plastic waste, which is because of the low collection of plastic waste, which is only 39%. And then the uncollected one is 61%. So resulting 6,000, more or less 6,000 ton of plastic entering into the oceans. In this situation, basically the Indonesian government already kind of created the NPAP, National Plan of on Action on the Marine Plastic Debris, with a target on 70% of reducing of the plastic entering into the oceans by 2025. Of course, at the end, this target have a broad support among the stakeholders in Indonesia, but still there are many complexity lies on how to achieve this target, who should involve, the party expected to really take up the role, and then what is the right balance between the public and also the private sectors, responsibility in achieving the target, who does what, how to resolve, the funding challenge on this target, who pays how much and for what, and then also how to ensure this kind of a fair and also effective enforcement system, how to ensure compliance. So of course, at the end, the addressing this is very critical, very important. Indonesia already put national strategy, but alone cannot solve. Therefore, aligning the Indonesian strategy with the new, I would say, the instrument is very important. Then we expect that the instrument to be able to help Indonesia to really shape the right policy to address the issue in the conducive and effective way.
Thank you very much, Karyanto. I was actually just in Bali last week for the G20 summit, and this was very much top of the agenda, and the Oceans 20 was also launched for the first time. So really commend the Indonesia presidency for putting the protection of these ecosystems. And of course, plastic pollution is one of the highest factors affecting marine ecosystems. So it's great to see the momentum that has been kind of being implemented in Indonesia, and I want to come back to you on that as well. At the moment, moment, I would like to invite Dr. Bijan to give his perspective. How has this been talked about and impacted in Thailand? And what are your perspectives on this global treaty?
Thank you very much, Jessica. First of all, I would like to talk about the ASEAN region already mentioned by our colleague. ASEAN has emerged with the hotspot of plastic pollution. At least 5 countries in our region in the top 10 of the plastic pollution contribute to ocean marine plastic debris within the urbanization and rising of the middle class in our region result in the huge demand of single-use plastic and plastic packaging. The problem for our region is that we do not have a proper plastic waste management, even not just plastic waste, but the waste management system as well. We are suffering from plastic pollution in many aspects, especially right now in our region, our country. Also, we found the contamination of microplastic in the living organization also quite high compared to the past. In the aspect of economy in Thailand, we produce approximately 2 million tons of plastic waste annually, but we can manage properly 55%. Another 75% go to landfill, go to incineration, but some of them also leaking into the river and also in the ocean. Asia Pacific region, plastic litter caused some economic loss that all of us know. We lost approximately 1.3 million US dollar annually. This is a huge number for Thailand itself. We lost 1.1 billion of potential material value lost to the Thai economy. Just why plastic pollution play a very important role in our country. Personally, I believe that the effective regulation instrument and circular economy would be a solution to solve these problems. Circular economy together with the support regulation would solve a higher plastic circularity, also increase the rate of plastic recycle, and eventually lead to the lower plastic pollution, lead to the environment and to the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bijan, for those perspectives, especially in the Thai context. While I have you here, a question for you would be, how do you think this treaty will then support in addressing the waste at source, the pollution at source, so to speak?
Yeah, but Thailand, we developed, we call the plastic roadmap already, but in terms of implementation, we still have some problem. For example, somebody may understand we ban something, but not a legal binding. In terms of implementation, still facing the problem. Just why if we can have a good regulation with the stakeholder consultation, I think would be good for us to implement our plan, our regulation. This is the problem in the country. For example, we ban like oxo degradable plastic, but some certain they still use it. That's the problem.
Thank you very much. Karyanto, coming to you, I mean, you mentioned that this, is also a huge issue in Indonesia. How do you think this instrument will then help, organizations or individuals address that problem at source?
Yeah, we believe that addressing the plastic pollution is really require, I would say, comprehensive approach. There is no single solutions to address it. So, which is, of course, at the end, it is including also the reductions of producing and also producing less plastic and generating less plastic waste. They are really specific, and it has to be measurable and also achievable. And I believe also the instruments that should be able to allow country like Indonesia as well as the industry and relevant stakeholders, to work together to meet the target that we set as a country as well as the industry. So, and then also basically how this instrument to support in addressing the problem. There are other several elements that I would like to highlight. We expect that the instrument will support, especially in the standard of the design of our packaging. Because to be honest with you, like Indonesia, I don't really think that we have a proper standard on the packaging, because this is very important. It is like in the upstream side, how to make sure that the packaging will be recyclable. And then there is also kind of standard on the use of recycled content as well as the renewable content. And then the instrument should be also addressing the supporting on the recycling system through really the multi-stakeholders and also the industry-wide platform to advance the circular economy. And then important as well, I think Zuhair and also Wisa mentioned about the consumer participation, public participation in supporting the circular economy. And then I think Ellen mentioned before as well, I think it is also relevant how to advance the progressive initiative and policy related to the producer responsibility. Of course, for us, we are open for the discussion on the producer responsibility, but it has to be relevant to the local context on Indonesia. What does it mean by the producer responsibility? How to really create the impact, a significant impact on the circular business model for the industry. So this is more or less, how the instrument we expect to support in addressing the plastic waste issue.
Thank you very much, Karyanto. I think there's a lot that the instrument can do to level the playing field, I suppose, and also to provide a lot of guidance. I want to come to Ellen. Ellen, I mean, you sit squarely in that innovation space as a VC looking at investing, money into technologies and solutions. What have you seen, of this landscape that is of note, and how do you think this instrument or this treaty can help to drive the innovation within this industry?
Terrific. Yes. So I think there are two ways. So in the innovative space, especially when we think about upstream solutions, really policy and the context locally is so critical to ensuring that those business models are scalable and viable. We see great challenges actually in the Southeast Asia region with being able to, change behavior and see those nascent opportunities really transform supply chains and the ways in which consumers behave without that type of support. So it is really critical. On the other hand, I would say that we've also seen the role of digital platforms and technology solutions really succeed and thrive in part because of policies. So in one case in our portfolio, we have a digital solution that really has done tremendously well in as part of the implementation of EPR policies in India. So, it can work for you and against you, I guess, as we think about the way in which a legally binding instrument can further help to leverage and scale these solutions. I would expect that the instrument helps to drive greater transparency in data. I think Kristen mentioned that before. It is going to be critically important for the system overall, but I would say also from an investor's perspective, this is critical, right? So you have investors who otherwise are not engaging, sitting on the sidelines, they're walking away or view the sector as too risky when there is a lack of transparency and disclosure. And so this type of element in the instrument and the negotiation process could really help to change that for the investment community. It's also a part of the reason Circulate Capital has joined with several other financial institutions and brands who have invested in us, such as Danone, in a business coalition for the Global Plastics Treaty. And we do hope that there are high ambitions in this instrument that could really be game changers. So as I mentioned, those innovative solutions upstream and downstream. Attention to blended finances was mentioned earlier. Funding and financing is needed here. We at Circulate Capital provide one type of capital, but we do need resources to support communities and solutions that contribute to planning, capacity building, and implementation. And that participation from a range of capital providers is going to be appropriate. And finally, that we need to make sure that we're providing instrument that includes and protects all workers in the value chain. This is a critically important aspect for, I know, many of us on this call, but also for Circulate Capital. This is part of our definition of impact, that we have to be thinking about the impact of our investments and the models we're supporting as they impact a workforce that has been critical to any recovery of plastics in the region. And as we scale those solutions, we have to make sure that they are included in the market opportunity, but also in the policy landscape as well. If we do that, I think the investments in these policy-driven opportunities, as we've seen in India, could be replicated in many other markets. And we really see that happening and on the verge in our own work in Indonesia and Thailand. But it's not just an opportunity for us. We're doing research through our mission-aligned nonprofit, the Circulate Initiative, with GPAP on highlighting other examples of real transactions that have been happening and made possible in large part by policies. And these are happening in every region. So beyond Southeast Asia, Kenya and Nigeria, Mexico, Belize, and Brazil, as well as in France and Germany and the US.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ellen. It's great to see the momentum happening across the world really on this issue. And I really like what you said about, how it's so important to protect all workers in the value chain and make sure that their voices are represented. And that's a nice, segue into Zuhaira. And, I would love to hear from your perspective, how does the civil society as well as the marginalized communities have a say as to what goes into this treaty and that it's also fit for purpose for them and that their livelihoods are also protected?
When it comes to civil society participation, we have seen that in many countries, governments, they don't address this issue, as an important issue. And first of all, I would like to say that in the negotiations earlier in Kenya and in the preparation meeting in Senegal, we have seen many Asian countries absent there. They didn't show up. And we hardly hear from the Asian countries and some of the global South countries, which is somehow, putting the risk, putting actually the civil society voices to be heard in risk. And also at the same time, we have to confess that the fight against plastic pollution is not going to be very easy. For climate change, we have seen how powerful the fossil fuel companies are. Here, for the fight against plastic pollution, we will obviously see we'll see that the plastic producers, fossil fuel companies, and the chemical companies, this trio will fight, and they will try to derail ourselves from our goals and try to deal with the process. So civil society, they should actually, consult with the government for organizing national, local, and regional consultations so that they can help government to strengthen their policy positions for INC and for this treaty. At the same time, we have to also work with UN organizations, because in many countries we don't have UNEP, but we have UNDP, we have ILO. We need to make sure that they are also involved in these processes, and also other multilateral environmental agreements, because climate change is not, the plastic pollution is not just an environmental issue, it's a climate issue, it's a human rights issue, it's a public health issue, it's a biodiversity issue as well. So we have to make sure that all the actors are engaged in the process. And we have to, the civil society people, they need to make sure that they are advocating for setting up a system for monitoring the progress and evaluating efforts, and government should be accountable for the the things they're bringing to the negotiation, and they should consult with the the civil society people for proactively develop new knowledge.
Thank you so much, Zuhair. This very, very great points about how to include these voices and make sure that the whole process is really inclusive. I want to go to Karyanto, for the industry perspective again. The industry is under a lot of pressure. And as you can tell, from media reports recently, there has been a bit of pushback as well in terms of how far you can go to regulate and legislate industry practices. There's also a very lively chat going on at the moment about using brand new plastics and whether that should be capped. And how is industry engaging, with this process for this treaty to ensure that whatever is in there is practicable, it can be implemented, but is ambitious enough so that we are really addressing the use of this material and how it's being distributed and then how it's also being collected.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it is a key and important for us as industry to be engaged into the discussion and the negotiations. But of course, for us, especially when we are talking about Indonesia, there are several elements that we need to, as industry, we need to adapt, and also we expect to be here as well during the negotiations. Because from the regulatory perspective, I think you mentioned before that I think Indonesia is quite advanced, in addressing the problem. The government already set, the regulatory, which is issued by the Ministry of Environment and also the Forestry on the waste reductions, are also kind of a producer responsibility, regulatory. And at the same time also, actually there is already kind of I would say a movement from the brand owner to drive the plastic circularity, drive the circular economy, and then also invest in this particular area. For example, like several brand owners invest or working together with the circulate capital, and also including also the establishing the IPRO, Indonesia Packaging Recovery Organization. It is a voluntary organization to promote the implementation of the circular economy model. So of course, in this case, as I mentioned to you, it is relevant for the industry to join because there are so many, challenge and issue that we need to also solve. I give you a real example. Industry now wants to use more on the recycled materials, but the thing is that the current situations with the challenge in terms of the collection and also the recycling industry in Indonesia, the cost of the price of recycled material, especially recycled PET, is really significant. Is the gap versus the virgin is high. So this is a challenge that we need to overcome together, because at the end, to be able to really use the recycled material as much as possible, we are able to have kind of a close the gap between the recycled material price versus the virgin material. So this is the area where can be part of the negotiations. I don't know how, to be honest, but there is also potential where there will be kind of a scheme for the incentive for the industry, for the incentive for the recycling industry, so that the industry will grow, so that the target of the use of recycle instead of the virgin. At the same time, also, the incentive scheme for the reusable business model, like what we do in Indonesia. If there is kind of a incentive scheme, this will help. So therefore, for us as industry, we would love to join the discussions. I know there are some skepticism, from many different stakeholders, but I believe we have the same ambition. We have the same goal, how to ensure that the model will be sustained.
Thank you so much, Karanto, for those perspectives on some of the industry challenges. Dr. Brijan, I would like to, ask your perspectives as you engage with so many businesses in your work. And this issue has obviously been quite a challenge, as we've heard from Karanto, many nuances. How do you engage, I suppose, with industry to get their buy-in and also to kind of address the pushback that we've been getting in some quarters?
Yes, I would like to give you some example. In Thailand, we work closely with the private sector. We develop a project after the government launched the roadmap on the plastic prevention, and the private sector join together, develop project with the government sector and civil society. We call PPP, Plastic Public-Private Partnership on Plastic Waste Management. That we set the target, how we can work together. I myself used to be a chairman of the project PPP Plastic, and private sector contribute for both in kind or in cash to develop or implement the pilot. For example, right now we have a project we call take back plastic, certain kind of plastic. For example, this is the very important how private sector engage with the activity, and government also announced new national agenda for the country. We call bio circular green economy. You may know already on the APEC summit as well. Thailand promote BCG. C in the middle is the circular economy. I myself also serve as chairman of circular economy subcommittee. And a pilot area, we are addressed on the plastic pollution because we can get the co-benefit while we solve the problem of plastic debris, and then we can get the benefit from the greenhouse gas reduction at the same time. That our work. And the important thing for the legal binding is similar to climate change. Right now, a lot of countries already announced how they go for the net zero. For plastic pollution, we have to set what they call MRV, measurable, reportable, and verifiable thing that we can report. Since we already have a target for Thailand, we have our roadmap. We set the target. The target one is replace some single-use plastic by using the environmental friendly product. The second one is the target one. The target two is the 100% of target plastic waste to circular economy, and we are going to ban some certain plastic that we found most contaminated, most used in our country this year, including the plastic straw, plastic bag with the thickener more than 36 micron, for example, plastic cup less than 100 micron, for example. This is our target. And then how we implement, I think it's very important. Just why I would like to conclude, if we have some very good instrument now in our country, we also underdeveloped being of the we call EPR, extended producer responsibility, how the producer can take back of plastic packaging or something like that. Still ongoing regulation, ongoing plan as well. That is in case of Thailand. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Rijan. And that's a very good point you made about the reporting of plastics as well, which is actually a question that I wanted to ask the panelists. How do you think that this plastic treaty really can influence positively the reporting of plastic pollution at country level? Because I think this is a statistic that's not very well tracked. And also, would obviously then provide a lot of impetus for some of the policies that we make. Anyone else with a perspective here? Ellen?
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. As the Chief Impact Officer for Circulate Capital, I obviously have a lot of stake in good data. So I will say that having greater harmony across markets in terms of understanding the full value chain from production through consumption, disposal, and hopefully recovery and recycling is critically important for us as an impact investor to understand our baselines, but also the progress that we can make at the country level, certainly, but also at the individual solution level. And I think this really is motivating. I've seen in chat a bit more about, what really is a lack of transparency in the economics of the system right now because of maybe a lack of formality or some competing interests. It's my hope that this instrument can contribute to that greater transparency and maturing the data environment in which we can all make better decisions.
Excellent point there. Karyanto, any perspective from
Indonesia? I would like to add what Ellen just mentioned. I quite agree. The data, I think, is very important for plastic. If the country can work on plastic material flow analysis, I think it's very important. Import or export plastic information also very important. With plastic used for the single-use plastic or even the replacement of single-use plastic, if we can have good data, I think it's easy for us to manage. Somehow, when we get started, I think it's really difficult to get the real or the good data to manage. If we can have good data, we can manage as well as I mentioned earlier, MRV, I think is really important, similar to the inventory of the greenhouse gas emission.
Good points, thank you. Karyanto, any thoughts to add there?
Sorry, can you repeat? It was breaking when you were telling them.
No worries. We were talking about the treaty kind of positively driving disclosure and greater transparency for the reporting of plastic pollution at the country level. I mean, from Indonesia's perspective and from the private sector's perspective, do you think that this will make a difference in terms of, the data that you can get out of countries?
Yeah, so definitely data is very, very important because I think in Indonesia, we have some challenges in terms of the data and also the transparency. I think we are getting better. We got some support from many different organizations to really understand where we are because the baseline is very important, as well as because also this is very important to actually address what will be the right approach to address the issue. And also this is very important as well for us as the industry. So and then of course on top of this, we really expect as well that the solution can be also help Indonesia in terms of the reshaping the policy, as well as what will be the potential financial solutions to address this, and then helping also on unlocking the innovations, data and transparency. Those are the things that I think we expect that it can be helped by these negotiations.
Thank you very much, Karyanto. Moving into the question and answer segment, I know our chat has been very, very lively in our Q&A box as well. So please continue to keep your questions coming in and do submit it officially to the Q&A chat box, which is at the bottom of your screen. And I'd like to field the first question to Dr. Wijan. Here, there's a question here from one of our participants, Michelle Felder, about Thailand's ban of the import of plastic waste in 2025. And the question is, can this ban improve improve the domestic recycling rate? If companies need plastic for recycling, what is stopping them from sourcing it locally? And then there's a question on whether China's import ban has improved their domestic recycling rate, but I guess, throw it out to any one of you who can answer that. But Dr. Wijan, on Thailand.
We have the committee to consider on the banning of plastic waste from other country, and we are promoting the circular economy. We develop the system how we can collect the plastic waste, come back to the system and use as a raw material under circular economy. But for the new product, we have to look for the life cycle of plastic. For example, design for recycle, or even the bioplastic. Somehow, since Thailand produce a lot of the potential of the bioplastic material. This is also the supplement of some kind of single-use plastic. We set our target to ban the plastic waste from other countries, and why we develop our ecosystem to collect the plastic waste in the country. Just why the roadmap of the plastic waste management set the target which year how many percentage of the plastic recycle or something like that. That's the point. And then under the roadmap, we have the action plan who going to taking care of each plan, what agency, even the private sector. If we can have a good policy, not just government policy, but the company policy, I think is very important. International company, they already have some good policy on the plastic prevention, and then we join hand with the government, and then we can work on that.
Thank you very much for those perspectives. I suppose, there is a growing trend against what they call waste colonialism, right? Where I guess more developed countries are actually shipping their waste off to poorer countries. And that's an issue that has been brought up by our participants today as well. And I think that increasingly each country is going to have to look at where their feedstock for waste is going and how we can best harness it. But there's no substitute really for tackling waste at its source. And I think that there has been a lot of calls for, say, a restriction or ban of the production of even more plastic products. And I wondered if any of our panelists had perspectives on this issue and whether the treaty would be then well positioned to put in such a ban, or is it not something that the industry would welcome? Ellen, perhaps I can get your impartial view.
Sure. I mean, I think that it's really a moment to consider. The coalition that we signed on to is also talking about the reduction of production that's needed, especially for those materials that are potentially hazardous, like the oxo materials, which Dr. Wijan also talked about. It has to be, holistic. We can't treat these things as silver bullet solutions, and certainly recycling alone is not going to solve the issue. So I think that is certainly something that we've heard is it needs to be on the table. And I think, as we think about it, I think it's critically important, and as an investor would treat this the same way, is that the business models themselves have to be viable and sustainable if we expect it to survive in a marketplace or in a consumer context. We would have to ensure that the environmental benefits of alternatives that allow us to reduce plastic production are also similarly driving towards climate goals, and that the social impacts associated with the system overall, from production through post-consumption, are considered. It's definitely a challenge, but it's a systemic problem, and we need to address it systemically.
Thank you for that perspective. Zuhair, you have any thoughts on that in terms of the specific, I guess, industry use of plastics from the civil society point of view? I think you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry, Jessica, would you like to repeat the question maybe? Because I have missed due to bad connection.
Yeah, no worries. No, the question really is about the regulation on industry that this potential treaty could have, because there have been calls for us not to produce, just more of the plastic products that we see, and that one of the ways was for industry to cap its use. And, from the civil society perspective, is that something that you're hoping for, or do you not see that as something that's very practical given the very, I guess, practical needs of this material in daily life as well?
Yeah, obviously, first of all, we have to address, we have to consider this as a health issue. And we have seen that in plastic, there are so many additives and chemicals added, which make plastic irrecyclable, non-recyclable. So we have to make sure that those plastics are not being produced. And some of the plastics are very expensive to recycle. And obviously, we have to make sure that those plastics are labeled, because for some of the plastics, when we actually put those into recycling, that creates a lot of health hazards for the people who are engaged in the process. And we have to make sure the harmful chemicals are not getting into the plastic when it's being composited. Yeah, that's I think that's one major concern which we should, should address.
Thank you so much for that perspective. And that's a nice segue into the next question that we have from our audience, and about how the biggest... Oh, sorry, Dr. Wijan, you wanted to mention something?
Yeah, Jessica, I would like to add what Sue just mentioned. Again, EPR, extended producer responsibility, I think would be a good way to consider, especially take back the plastic packaging of the company. I think that the way to go for that we can increase our recycle material. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was mentioning about the next question, and it's really about the low value flexibles and how no one really wants to pick that up. And I think, Zuhair, you mentioned, that difficulty of plastics having all sorts of additives and different quality, and it just makes recycling absolutely impractical and expensive. So, how do we address this issue? Karyanto, would you like to give a perspective?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we recognize, there are several types of material which is difficult to recycle, and this is really creating a kind of a problem, like the multi-layers of materials. I think for us in Southeast Asia, mostly the rigid packaging, especially PET and HDPE, the collection rate is relatively high. But MLP, like the sachet, is still an issue. So therefore, I think first thing first, as an industry, I think they need to do the innovations to ensure that the product, the materials will be recyclable. Options to move to monolayers is an option, which is, I believe, the technology is there. Some, to my understanding, some companies are also doing, this kind of piloting. And then we, as IPRO Indonesia Packaging Recovery Organization, because we have also the work stream on innovations, we also work together with many organizations to try to promote the monolayer solutions. Nevertheless, this has to be complement with the right of the proper collection system, and also on top of the packaging standard within the country. Because at the end, if we are pushing multi-layers to monolayers, but at the same time also the collection infrastructure is not really established, then the problem may not be solved effectively. And at the same time, also, if the government is not putting the right standard on the packaging, means that there is potentially the producer still producing the multi-layers. So means that both multi-layer and and monolayer will be mixed, and at the end, without really proper, standard coding, this kind of things, then the solutions may not be effectively implemented. So this is just to my point of view on this challenge on the low value flexible, but I think this is the priority that we have to overcome together.
Great perspectives there, Carianto. Is certainly not an easy problem to solve. Ellen, do you have some perspective on this in terms of like the technologies needed maybe?
For sure, and I appreciate the question from Sri. I think that we've actually invested in a couple of near-term solutions that are viable businesses today. They're essentially taking that material and turning it into construction boards and longer-term uses than a single-use package. So there's incremental improvement and opportunity to address material there today. But again, to the point, it's still not a particularly high value end product, right? And so we do need to continue to innovate on the technologies. Absolutely agree that the design issues of switching from multi-layer to monolayer is critical. Switching potentially delivery models and other solutions that could replace our concept of what a sachet might be needed for. But then some of the opportunities then to upcycle that material in the future that would involve more advanced recycling technologies or other solutions would also be appropriate, as well as alternative materials. So there are, you can see this whole portfolio of solutions that are needed really alongside of then, and those might be privately invested in. But alongside of that, you're also going to need public sector investment in just waste management and making sure that that material is recovered and doesn't pollute the environment. So, without both infrastructure and innovation, and then private and public investment into those systems, we are not ultimately going to solve that problem. It's a critical issue when we think about just the economics of trying to address this one particular material in a much larger waste stream.
Thank you, Alan. Those are very, very good perspectives. And, I actually sometimes advise some impact funds and see some solutions that come through, my table. And there are some innovations, for example, taking plastic waste or the low value plastics and then reusing that as roads, for example. But then the regulation around that and the fire safety and, like a whole operating environment to these new, innovative materials is also a huge other question. So I think we can't really underestimate how many different stakeholders really have to be involved in this. Going to another question that we have, I think maybe we have time for one or two more last ones. There is a question here on Thailand, Dr. Wijan, and it's there are many informal waste pickers already collecting plastic in Thailand. And why can't the manufacturers prioritize this for use? And do we have to set maybe a higher price for this to encourage more local collection?
Yeah, in Thailand, we have informal sector get involved for waste, not just plastic, for the waste management. I think we have to look for the whole system. Right now, we are on the process of the informal sector to register with the government sector, and then we can manage. Especially, we are going to apply for the circular economy system in place in the country. That's very important. For example, design for recycle. I mentioned earlier, if we can get started. For example, I can for drinking water, for the drinking bottle, we have at least 3 kinds of plastic. How we can reduce? We can use the single type of plastic. I think it's easy to recycle. Right now, we move. For example, like for the label thing, is the different type of not PET. Not PET, but other type of plastic that when we are recycled, not can go together. We have to separate. That's the thing. We have to look for the life cycle assessment and look for the design for recycle also so very important. We also talk about the bioplastic, how we utilize bioplastic. Bioplastic not replacement the plastic that we use currently, but bioplastic can replace like a single-use plastic. For example, you use for the garbage of the waste, organic waste that go to landfill. That's really good for the environment. For example, why we use the conventional plastic can go to maybe incineration or something. It's depend on, you have to manage. Plastic come to waste. If we have good system for the waste management, system in place, ecosystem in place, I think it's very important for our region. But right now, in even in Thailand, we still have a good system yet. We still try how many garbage we're going to promote for a recycle or for plastic or something like that. That's the point. And circular economy come along. We are going to implement and decide how we can collect the plastic.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And with an eye on the time, I'm just going to invite the speakers to give your closing thoughts, as well as, if there's one thing that you'd like to see from this treaty that's going to be negotiated next week, what would it be? Zuhair, I would invite you to give your closing remarks first.
No, thank you, Jessica. I think that we all, the civil society people, youth, and other actors, they should advocate for keeping the provision of, grant-based funding options for the LDCs and the low middle income countries. And this fund should go to the, the waste speakers, the innovators, the entrepreneurs who are maybe, discovering new eco-friendly alternatives of plastic and phasing out single plastic. And also we need to think of, like, if everything go well and we have a very strong plastic treaty, what will happen to the plastic waste which we have already dumped into the ocean? We also need to think about that. We need to invest in the in creating new knowledge and technologies, how we can maybe recover those and make our ocean clean, because it's really persecuting our species and affecting the health of marine biodiversity. So I would suggest that this instrument or the treaty should really address the funding provisions for all of these actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good points made there. Ellen?
Thanks. Just building on what Zuhair said, I completely agree. And I think part of the process needs to be inclusive of the waste workers and take more of an equity and gender lens into the whole issue as they're negotiating. I'm not a policymaker or negotiator, but I can tell you that this is part of our work as an investor, and recognizing that these stakeholders are part of the activities that we're doing and investments we're making. So if we can do it, my hope is that this type of inclusive dialogue and as part of the process would be the first step to making sure that those policies are equitable and just, that we can actually incentivize greater circularity. And for me, that most tangibly sort of relates to the interplay of funding and financing from different sources, and how we ensure that the people who are involved throughout the value chain actually are treated with dignity and have a seat at the table.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ellen. Karyanto?
Yes, for our point of view, I think the negotiations should, consider the interests of those who involved, which is that is very important. And then how to really ensure to really promote the collaborations and sharing in terms of the data, resources, and best practices to really create kind of a positive environment and win-win solutions for relevant parties. Which is we believe that we have the same objective ambitions, how to solve the plastic challenge for our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well said. And last but not least, Dr. Wijang.
Thank you very much. I think we have to follow principle of common but differentiate responsibility. I think especially technology and funding sharing from developed country to developing country, I think is really important for plastic management. I think developed country already done a good thing. How we can learn from them, implement in our country. I think it's really important. Technology transfer, that's the funding support to implement plastic waste and also the waste management for the local authority. Actually, in our country, waste management belong to local authority. How we build up capacity of local authority, I think is really important. The separation of the plastic, the aggregation of the waste, I think still very important for us. And also circular economy, how we translate circular economy come to action for developing country would be good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wijan. I hear echoes of the climate negotiations here with the common but differentiate principles. But hopefully, given that the plastic pollution problem is so immediate and is so focused, that we would have, a set of very, very strong results from the INC meeting next week. And I want to thank all the panelists today for all your insights. I've learned so much from all of you, and also to all our participants for your comments and your questions. I'm sorry if we didn't manage to go through all of them. Really just scratching the surface here with the discussion today, but perhaps it would have provided us with a lot of food for thought and also actionable items that we can bring into the negotiations next week. I would like to get all my panelists to just smile for the camera as we take a group shot. If you could give me your winning smiles on the count of 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much, and I would now like to hand over the time to Deanne. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jessica, Ellen, Zuhair, Karyanto, and Dr. Wirjan for this very insightful panel discussion. And thank you to our audience for the interesting questions. Moving on to the next segment of this program, we're excited to introduce the first of the spotlighted solutions. As mentioned by Kamala, this year, Sea of Solutions 2022 will be spotlighting unique and impactful circularity solutions that transform the linear plastic value chain into a circular one. From designing, producing, and consuming to post-consumer waste management. Solutions spotlighted will cover 3 cross-cutting themes: innovation, inclusion, and collaboration. Today, we will specifically focus on innovation. Solutions under the innovation theme exhibits innovative circularity interventions that also address gender, human rights, and responsible business conduct. Innovation is imperative in addressing the plastic pollution crisis. We are excited to have 4 organizations from across the region join us here today to share more about their organization, their solution, and their impact on the agenda of mitigating plastic pollution in Southeast Asia and beyond. Before we hear from the spotlighted solutions today, please enjoy a short video which introduces the theme and the solutions to be spotlighted here today.
Our initiative aims at rationalizing the drinking water practices by allowing businesses and hotels to achieve their transition from single-use plastic bottles to environmental friendly and reusable packaging. We can reasonably target an approximate of 500 hotels within the next 4 years and all over Indonesia. The present showcase allows an immediate savings of 400,000 plastic bottles per year for this hotel only.
Our mission is mainly to find an innovation to actually extract, to recognize and extract the value or the inherent property of plastic scrap and convert it into a high value material or a high performance material which can be commercialized.
As a medical doctor, I am confident that we can choose the packaging that is good for health and the environment. Therefore, I am determined to create a genuinely innovative packaging that makes the solution for our health, environment, and world. Hence, our containers are made from natural plant, the origin of the plant glass, the natural plant fiber products for health and the environment.
I hope you all enjoyed that video that captures the essence of this theme. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our first spotlighted solution to share about their work. I will now like to invite Dr. Virachat, CEO and founder of COBSEA, to share about their organization. COBSEA is a nature-based food packaging company, an alternative to single-use plastic. Dr. Virachat has been inspired by health environmental problems of plastic pollution, which is when he came up with the food packaging made from 100% natural plant fiber. Before I hand it over to Dr. Virachat, I wanted to share to everybody that we will be doing a questions and answer session at the end of all the 4 presentations. So same as previously, if you have any questions, please place them in the Q&A function box. And please do also share who you would like to pose this question to. We will come to all the questions at the end of all 4 presentations. To make it easier, please type the questions to the speakers as well. Over to you, Dr. Virachat.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Virachat, the founder of the company GLASS. I'm very pleased to present in this event. GLASS, the biodegradable packaging company, we developed the innovative compostable food packaging by use the virgin natural plant fiber. Because in Thailand, we are the agriculture-based country. So we have a lot of agriculture waste. We start using the agriculture waste to build up the product to substitute foam and plastic. Next, please. Yeah, like I said, BPE is biodegradable packaging. And for environment company, we determine to produce safe, convenient, and functional product with 100% natural plant fiber under the brand GLASS. Next, please. Our vision is our life will live healthier in a safe natural environment. And our mission is create a nature-to-nature innovative by maximizing use of natural material for healthier living while ensuring completely integrated back to nature. All is back to nature. And we offer the innovative biorenewable solution for quality of life and safe environment. Next. Yeah, because like I said, in Thailand, we are the agriculture-based country. So we give the innovation, we innovate the product from a virgin agriculture waste to a value added of food packaging. And this, the thing that we think is the circular economy. We produce is from nature. Take all the agricultural waste by using and make the product by use very low energy, and we do it by the solar energy also. And all of our product is 100% natural plant fiber, so become 100% fertilized for plant later also. Next. Yeah, like I said, it's 100% natural plant fiber. It's production by the solar energy, and we do clean and 100% compostable without any laminated plastic. No laminated plastic. And after you use it, it's fertilized to grow up the new plant. Next, please. Yeah, the innovation that we make for the product right now, we do both the food packaging and non-food packaging. The food packaging that we do, we're not only doing for only contain the food, but we still develop it to prevent food and preserve food also. And for the non-food packaging, we can do the medical equipment, the medical supply, and others. So next, I can show you in next slide. Yeah. Become it so natural, but water hyacinth from bamboo and from other plant fiber that have a lot in Thailand, like rice straw. We innovate it and produce it. So when we use it, the farmer don't have to burn it. That make low PM 2.5 to Thailand. Next. Next, please. Yes. And the product that we develop from the plant fiber that we do is not only contain the food, but now we develop to do the frozen, to use the packaging for frozen food, a fresh food. We can use it like 1.5 years, put it in frozen and refrigerator. We can do the chill food that can hold the food for 7 to 10 days, or even the food that you put it in the ice and can do the preserve the good food. We do some kind of the bread that is oil absorbing bread. That when you have the oily food, you put it in this bread, the bread's gonna absorb the oil, and you can eat very healthy food. We do the product that have a hole in the product. It means that the product can breathe. We call it breathable packaging. When the packaging can breathe, the life of the food in the packaging can have longer life. We call the prolonged life packaging. This is another thing that we develop. Next, please. Yeah, not only for the food that we serve, we can make the product that can use for microwave. It's microwavable, ovenable for 240 Celsius, 40 degrees. We can use it in the oven, and you can boil it. The packaging that you can boil in this packaging, or even the product that can hold the smell, like durian smell. We can do some kind of product like this. Next, please. Not only the food packaging, we expand the product to be other product line, like the medical equipment. We have the medical equipment and medical supply, and have 3 layers of product like hygiene product, the sterile product, and then we do the mask because of in these 2 years for COVID, we have a lot of the PPE garbage, especially the mask. So we do the compostable mask that can 100% compostable. Next, please. Yeah, like I said that the hygiene product, we can do the kidney tray. We can do the tray to hold the needle, the tray hold the vaccine to the patient, and we can do the urinal product, kind of urinal and urinary container and bedpan, something like that. Next, please. And the sterile product, we can do the dressing set. We can do the kidney tray that used in the operation room, that's used in the IPD or OPD. That we can do all to decrease the reinfection in the hospital, both for the patient to the doctor and both to the nurse. we can decrease the reinfection. To use this and throw it away in one time. Next, please. This is the mask. We can develop the mask to use the same as normal mask, but we try to make more to use the quality as the N95. Then this mask is 100% compostable. Next, please. Yeah, and we do many things other than the food, medical equipment, medical supply. We can do the product for toy. We use for the toy packaging, and for the agriculture, the plant pot that can 100% compostable. You can first start in the plant pot and put all the pot in the soil, and this packaging can fertilize to be a good thing for the plant. And we do many things for pet food also. Next, please. Yeah, so now we produce this kind of products around 2 million pieces a day. So it's about 220 million pieces a year that we can replace plastic. You don't have to do anything with this product. You can put in the garbage or even put it in your backyard. So it's gonna be 100% compostable in 45 days. And we can reduce the microplastic, that leakage to the ocean and the soil, and we slow down the pollution of PM2.5 because of burning of agricultural waste. When we use agricultural waste to produce our product, the agricultural waste is going to have the value and people not burn it. And we can convert more than 1,400 tons a year to be a good container as glass for food and non-food container. And all that we do is can be composed in 45 days. So everything that we do, when you throw it away, is going to fertilize to produce the new plants. That's what we do for our product. Next, please. Yeah, not only for the world, but for our health also. You don't have the pollution of PM2.5, but more than that, you don't have to face with the toxic from carcinogen, from foam and plastic, or toxic on some chemical from foam and plastic. That can decrease your risk for carcinogen and for other toxic substance. Next, please. Yeah, what we do is very compared to the Sustainable Development Goals impact. We can make some good health and well-being on number 3, and we can do the sustainable city and community for number 11. We make really good for the life below water because we slow down the microplastic that have a lot in our ocean right now. And the life on land also, our product can be fertilized, so they grow up the new plant in the world. Next, please. Yeah, this all what we do for glass. The new thing that we start changing since the first start of use. We don't do the recycle. We don't do any about eliminate it after use it, but we doing at the first hand. That's all for glass. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weerchat, for such an insightful presentation, sharing more around GRAZI's project. And I think we have a couple of questions coming up, so we'll get to that later on. Moving on to our next presentation, I will now like to invite Ms. Kian Ho, founder and managing director of Henkyap Industries. Henkyap Industries is transforming marine litter into new manufacturable materials through inclusive and innovative approaches. Kian has developed smart plastics to address plastic manufacturers' needs for high-quality customized recycled plastic. Kian has also designed the smart factory in Johor Bahru from the ground up, which has been labeled by the Green Building Index as Gold certified. Over to you, Kian.
Hi, thank you, Dian, and thank you, Sea of Solutions, for having me here. My name is Kian Xia. I'm the founder and CEO or HHI based in Malaysia. For some of you who already know me, my journey in recycling started at a young age of 10, where my parents are collecting recyclable from household to household. So yes, I see a lot of interest related to informal recycler or independent recycler. I was one of them. I still am, in fact. My father was a truck driver and a recycler. My mother was a truck driver and recycler as well. So fast forward that, today HHI is an end-to-end integrated plastic recycling company, whereby we actually have a comprehensive collection infrastructure that we collect all the plastic scrap, mainly for polypropylene, polyethylene, and PET. And then we do our own separation, crushing, washing, and then including mixing, finally extrusion, excuse me, as a mechanical recycler. HHI is a 20-year-old company. We started in year 2002. We collect up to 60,000 tons of plastic scrap every year, and then we export to 38 different countries. Let me share my slide, quickly today and talk about the topic that's actually all very dear to all of us here. Now, the big milestone for HHI is that when HHI, let me share the right folder. Pardon me here. So the big milestone happened 7 years ago when we moved to a new factory. As a mechanical recycling company, we know that mechanical recycling is great, but we use too much electricity. So we decided to make our own electricity. So there are only two options at that time. It was either investing in solar panel, or we go into pyrolysis, or commonly known as chemical recycling, whereby we convert material that cannot be mechanical recycled and convert that into a diesel, a circular diesel, and from that diesel, we can then generate our renewable energy up to 1 megawatts. So we managed to do that and invest in a 2 kGA pyrolysis plant, whereby we can power our own electricity up to 1 megawatt. So that was really, really exciting, and we were harvesting rainwater so that can support 100% of any of the washing that's required within the facility, so that we can work in an off-grid environment whereby the plastic recycling, or HHI as the plastic recycling company and a smart factory is sustainable enough that we could, technically operate without any, direct supply of electricity or water. And that gives us the gold level of GBI, which stands for Green Building Index in the country. So that's very exciting. And today, we mainly want to share our innovation in transforming plastic, marine pollution, or marine litter into innovative material through our approaches. Now, let's start with the problem. I think, right before pandemic, marine pollution and plastic pollution was dominating headlines. And these are some of the trend that could, be worrisome. The first one is the global plastic production. In year 2014, we have 311 million tons, and then, 311 million tons, and then it's growing very, very quickly to 1.124 by 2050. That's the projection. The ratio of plastic to fish in the ocean, or fishes in the ocean, we saw that it's increasing from a 1:5 ratio to more plastic than fishes in the ocean, and we all read about that. The plastic share of global oil consumption will increase from 6% in 2014 to 20% by 2050. And then, of course, the plastic share of carbon budget will increase from 1% to 15%. So these are very, very important trends. And when we look into the whole impact of plastic problem, we still see a rather fragmented linear consumption, whereby design, production, distribution, consumption, collection, and recycling still operating in a rather fragmented manner. And then, how are we going to bend the linear economy into a circular one, become a very, very important discussion among the stakeholders. Now, when all this was happening year 2019, we start to relook into what we can do. And then, it kind of boils down into three main pillars. Number one, it's promoting circularity. We actually see that, one of the trends will basically be using more recycled content, into our plastic product, starting with packaging to encourage more continual use of resources. And then the second thing is basically to reduce the GHG emission. This part is very important because increasingly, especially when we are being confronted with this climate crisis, the overall GHG emission becomes a very important aspect. And then, of course, preventing waste leakages is also an area that's actually very important. That how can we prevent plastic after consumption or plastic scrap under consumption from going into a mismanaged landfill or leaking into river, to the ocean, or even open fire. So as an integrated end-to-end plastic recycling company, we then thought of our innovation of collecting, ocean-bound plastic, which cannot be mechanically recycled, and use a chemical recycling to convert that into a circular naphtha. Now, in my next slide, I'll share a little bit more about our ocean plastic collection, how part of that collection will go into mechanical recycling. But the key part is that, a big chunk of the material that we collected from ocean-bound, whereby we extended our integrated network to collect all this ocean-bound plastic, a big chunk of this cannot be mechanical recycled. So then we decided to use chemical recycling, whereby we pre-treat and clean the material so that it goes into a kiln or a reactor, so that we can let the pyrolysis process take place. Then we condense it, and as an output, we get a very high quality fuel that we have actually able to perfect the quality so clean and so pure that this circular naphtha can go straight into a steam cracker. So as partially mentioned earlier on, so there are four main key initiatives. The first part is on the collection, that we collect the ocean-bound plastic material through our network and through collaboration with NGOs and also the independent informal community. The second part is actually recovering and reprocessing this material so that it becomes a material or a base, pre-treated material with certain consistency or certain integrity in terms of its quality. The third one is chemical recycling, whereby we crack this material and then we liquefied it so that it becomes a circular naphtha. Last but not least, we then work with one of the global leaders as a resin producer to convert this circular naphtha into a circular polymer. So a circular polymer then is a raw material whereby it comes from ocean-bound plastic as an alternative hydrocarbon feedstock rather than the fossil base that we are familiar with. So, this is the progress that we have made so far. We have managed to intercept more than 2,700 tons of mismanaged ocean-bound plastic here in Malaysia, of which 303 tons of pyrolysis oil is being derived, in this case. And then we have more than 112 ocean-bound sites with 71, collectors that we actually work, teams that we work with. And then basically, this is the part that's important, that average, that's average daily wage of $17.23, for these collectors. Our goal is to push forward, to enable a plastic neutral society. We hope to enable and adopt a zero waste business model. We would like to recycle 30,000 tons of plastic, ocean-bound plastic scrap by 2030. We have plans that we are working towards this aggressively, and then we want to scale up our pyrolysis plant to 30,000 tons per annum. So these are some of our progress, in a short presentation about our company. Here are some of the details, do reach out to us if you have more questions. And I'll pause here and pass the airtime back to Dean.
Thank you so much, Ken, for the super insightful presentation and sharing the vision of Young Happy Industries as well. Moving forward, I think I would like to say thank you to our first two speakers and organizations to really kind of have showcased and lay out the field of how innovation has really created impact in the space. So moving on to our next two presentations, showcasing innovations from Indonesia, I will now like to welcome Bintang Ikananda, founder and CEO of COINPAK, to do our next sharing. COINPAK is targeting single-use plastic at the source with its technology, driven by reusable and returnable packaging. Bintang is an entrepreneur and engineer with more than 6 years extensive experience in the fields of sustainability, engineering, and entrepreneurship. Currently, Bintang is the director of COINPAK, a pioneer startup in the field of reuse and refill models for consumer goods in Indonesia. Before I pass it over to Bintang, please once again, just a quick reminder to ask any of the questions that you may have for any of the speakers within the Q&A platform. Over to you, Bintang, to share more about COINPAK.
Hi, hi everyone. So let me share screen first. So yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for the opportunity for the Sea of Solutions. My name is Bintang. I'm the director and co-founder of COINPAK. So currently I'll share with you about our work in developing and building reuse solution in Indonesia to prevent single-use plastic waste. So first of all, I'd like to share about the problem as well as the opportunity. So currently in Indonesia, mismanaged plastic waste is represented by 76% of single-use flexible packaging, which currently is uncollected or having very low economic value for informal waste collectors, hence mostly is uncollected and go to landfill or even polluting our environment. And we see an opportunity that Indonesia targets for, we have like very ambitious target in Indonesia to reduce 70% of marine plastic leakage by 70%. And systemic estimates that there's potential to reduce 140,000 tons of single-use flexibles by 2025 using reusable packaging as well as refill models. Indonesia also has a very ambitious target to obligate producers to reduce their waste, especially from retailers, FMCG companies, as well as restaurants until 2029. And we also see that 40% of Indonesian shoppers already aware about plastic pollution, and they are actively seeking of the solution to reduce their waste production. So here we are, we built COINPAK. Basically, COINPAK facilitates FMCG companies to provide the products, particularly daily essentials like shampoo, detergent, body wash in our reusable and returnable packaging system, or we call that as packaging as a service. for their consumers, so that we can prevent single-use flexible waste at the source. This is how we work. So basically, we are working with these FMCG partners. We are providing our packaging. They will fill this packaging with their products within their site, so making sure the quality as well as the hygiene. And then we are distributing this product to consumers via two ways. First is via retailers. I'll explain what kind of retailers that we have. A second way is to distribute or sell them directly via home delivery service to our consumers. And then this is the circularity of this model, where consumers can return the empty packaging to the retailers or via home pickup service, and then they will get a reward for this new habit. And then COINPACT will clean and sanitize this packaging, and then this clean packaging will be distributed back to FMCG companies for refill, and then goes back to the market. This way, we believe that we can prevent single-use packaging from the source. These are some of the selection of our products. So we are selling products at as small as 100 milliliter size. So we are hoping to cater more and more low-income consumers for this inclusive and zero-waste solution. As said, we are mainly providing daily essentials like home care and personal care products, as well as food like rice, because rice is very close to Indonesian daily life. In the previous slide, we are currently still using the existing packaging from the market, where usually it can only be reused 5 to 10 times, but currently we are developing a new packaging where it's more durable, it's trackable, and can be used at least 20 times. This is just a 3D design, so the real packaging will be transparent. This is also coming from our in-depth research with our customers, where they are really, for example, in terms of desirability of the packaging, they really want to see the content of the product, so that they can estimate when their product will be finished, so that they can estimate when they should go to refill or to return the packaging and then repurchase. We will still use the PET material or plastic, but we are also including 30% of recycled plastics in our new packaging portfolio. And we are also producing universal packaging. So in terms of shape, that will be identical for different size. So it will also make the logistic part is much more efficient. These are our value propositions for the supply chain. So basically, as said, for our consumers, I'll also explain later a bit about who is our target market. They can get a 20% up to 20% saving after they're returning the packaging. And then for the sales points or retailers, they will have more and more loyal consumers, because their customers are keep coming back to return the packaging and then repurchase. Also up to 15 income increase for certain type of retailers, for example, like our peer-to-peer agents. I'll also explain that a bit more in the next slide. We are empowering housewives to be able to sell products and then earning additional income for their household. And of course, for the FMCG companies, we are helping them to achieve their sustainability goals much faster by transitioning into our solution. As said, we are working with sales points, mainly our community based. If you're familiar with waste bank communities in Indonesia, we are working with them to promote and then sell our products, promote the system, educate the markets, as well as warungs or mom and pop stores in several. It's similar like mom and pop stores. These are a couple of our activities in the field to educate the consumers, to educate our sales points, to promote this system. These are the target market. As said, we are really want to make this solution inclusive. We are really targeting the consumers who are, for example, consuming sachet in chains for their daily household. That's why we are selling products in packaging with as small as 100 milliliter. Mostly our housewives with social economic status C to D, spending per month is around 1 to 2 million Indonesian rupiah, with the age 30 to 40 years old. And their main drivers is actually savings and convenience, because with the home pickup service, for example, for the packaging return, that is increasing the convenience of this circular model for this type of low-income consumers. Their main influence is really on their peers, so that's why we are really working from grassroots. We are working with a local champion in the neighborhood level. We are working with them to influence each other to spread the word of mouth of the solution, so that they are trying and then sticking into this reusable packaging system. So far we have been available in 100 retailers or sales points, mainly are women-led waste banks and war room stores, as well as peer-to-peer agents as our retailers or sales points. We have served more than 2,500 users so far, creating at least 10 to 20% savings per purchase for them. In terms of impact, environmental impact, we have been able to prevent around 349,000 single-use flexibles from this solution. And in Greater Jakarta only, because currently we are only operating in Greater Jakarta, we are also partnering with 5+ local and global FMCG companies, and we expect more to join next year. These are a couple of the innovations that we are currently deploying. So you can see that these are the return packaging from the users, and then just playing some slides. This is how we clean our packaging in-house before the packaging goes to the refill process. Yeah, this is the process of the sanitation. We are using food grade chemicals for sanitizing the packaging. And we are also tracking the life cycle of the packaging. As you can see, this is our dashboard. So we deploy a very simple QR code technology where every time we clean them, we will scan them, and then we are able to track how many cycles that every packaging has been through the market. That is very important, especially for FMCG companies to be able to justify the cost of the packaging. We treat this packaging as an asset rather than as a product that is discarded after single usage. This is our plan. So we believe that we are currently having a self-sustaining business model, packaging as a service. We are basically capturing gross margin from distribution and sales of products around 28%. We are also charging a fee for the packaging that we are cleaning and then send or ship to the FMCG partners. We will focus to expand our sales points or retailers to 2,500 points in the next 2 years. We're expected to be able to break even at the time by generating around $2.7 million in revenue. And then after that, we will try to expand the solution, not just in other cities in Indonesia, but also in similar characteristic of cities like Jakarta, where the usage of products in multi-layer packaging, like for example, Philippines, Malaysia, could be replicating this solution. This is my last slide. So these are a couple of awards that we received. The latest is coming from ADB. So I think this is also increasing our hope and confidence, where ADB are providing funding for circular solution and reusable packaging solution like COINPACK. I think that's all from my side. Happy to answer any of your question in the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bintang, for the sharing about the innovative work that COINPAC is currently doing. On to our last presentation for today. Our final presentation in the innovative track and the last one for today is by PT Pipa. I would like to now invite Nicholas Perez, Technical Director at PT Pipa, to share about the innovative work that they are doing at Pipa, where they are rethinking traditional drinking water systems and moving towards zero plastic packaging in the process. Nicholas has accumulated experience within the Indonesian market since 2008, driven by the determination and growing concern for the country's exceptional diversity, gaining specialization in water resource management and environmental sustainability. Over to you, Nicholas.
Hi, hello everyone. Let me share the screen and start this. Yeah, I hope you're able to see. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about our solution. My name is Nicholas. I am a French citizen, but I have been living in Indonesia for more than 20 years now. And today I'm driving innovation and leading the technical department of our company, PT Pipa. Okay, let's start. Indonesia is ranking very high on the water stress index, and Indonesia is facing a dilemma. On one side, there is a high abundance of water with a lot of rain, often leading to floods and landslides. But at the same time, Indonesia is facing water scarcity. The access to clean water for daily usage is already a challenge. So thinking about drinking water at the tap is absolutely out of the question. The only solution today for drinking water is going through packaged water, which come with its own set of challenges. Some of the challenges leading to heavy carbon footprint is the exploitation of natural water resources. Also, the manufacturing process of the plastic packaging is another challenge. Also, we have the gigantic logistics of the supply chain in Indonesia. Keep in mind that Indonesia is the largest archipelago in the world, with more than 17,000 islands and spanning more than 5,000 kilometers from west to east. 80% of the population is located on Java Island, as well as the water production site. So you can only imagine the challenges to ship water across the territory. As a consumer, the choice we have for drinking water are limited. The majority of the water comes in plastic packaging. It is cheap, it is convenient, it is lightweight. That's good, but the problem is the life cycle and the disposal of the plastic bottles. On the top right, this is a picture of Bantar Gebang in Bekasi. This is known as Gunung Sampah, or the mountain of trash. This is east of Jakarta, and this is the largest landfill in Indonesia, and probably one of the largest in the world. If we take the example of hospitality industry, the hotels, there is about 720,000 rooms in Indonesia available. If we consider 2 plastic bottle per room, this ends up at about 500 million plastic bottles being disposed in landfills every single year. There is an impact on human. The site like this require humans to operate. They are called the trash picker. They have terrible working conditions. But they don't only work there, they actually live there. Some of the children are born there, and some of them is the only thing they've seen all their life. And they go through sorting different trash, and some of them is plastics. The bottles mostly end up in landfills, but not always. Indonesia has open sewer system, and very often the plastic bottles, after we finish drinking, end up in the rivers, which end up in our oceans. Also, the packaged water is very expensive. Actually, it's not accessible to everyone. The poorest population need to look for alternative, for cheaper brand or for other system, and usually it means lower quality without the guarantee of healthy standards. Another issue is that Jakarta is facing air pollution. Everybody knows that. And the trucks and heavy vehicles are part of the problem, from the production site to the delivery site and the access point of water. Also, the garbage trucks that are lining up all day and every day at the landfills are part of this problem, and they should be considered in the whole supply chain of the drinking water and considered in the carbon footprint as well. So our mission is to tackle the challenge of plastic pollution and water crisis at the same time by providing a circular economy action plan. We are focusing initially on hospitality sector with immediate solution to support their transition from single-use plastics to sustainable and reusable packaging. This is what we have developed. It is on-site drinking water bottling plants. This is our pilot project in Mercure Convention Center in North Jakarta in Ancol. This hotel has shown a great leadership and commitment to sustainability, despite the difficult last 2 years that we have all gone through. By the way, this was commissioned in April of this year, so this is a recent initiative. In here, the users can produce high quality drinking water on site, on their own site, using municipality water. We are using the most advanced purification technology from Blue Water Sweden. This system allows the hotel to transition from single-use plastic to washable and reusable glass bottle. Therefore, we are reducing drastically the carbon footprint because there are no more logistics involved in this. Of course, we had to undertake several initiatives to justify the cost benefit of this innovation. It included mobilizing policymakers and civil society mindset. We had to sort of prepare the terrain and have people ready to welcome our innovative solution. We also had to empower the Indonesian industries to adjust to our vision. We had to start from scratch because the equipment were not readily available on the market or in the factory. We had to sit down and work out on the design and the end product and the standards as well. Finally, the communication initiative to media platform and to government representative were crucial to spread the message. If we take the example of Hotel Mercure in Ancol, as I showed you previously, this has about 400 rooms. It allows saving 500,000 plastic bottles every year. And the return on investment for such project was only 14 months. This pilot project has been rewarded by WTM London early this month with the World Responsible Tourism Award Gold Medal. And today we are in position to support the whole hospitality sector and offer an immediate solution to achieve their sustainability commitment. We receive support and visibility from various local media here, and we are proud to see that the initiative also allows to empower the user by switching from a polluter position to an actor of change. Now we are aiming to lead the transformation of clean water access and support the transition from single-use plastic bottle to sustainable packaging. We are targeting 500 hotels within a 5-year time frame, with horizontal growth to other sectors as well, such as industry, factories, or education, universities as well. We are looking to prevent 100 million bottles ending up in landfills by 2026 and to reduce the associated carbon emissions. To accelerate this development, we are also offering a build, own, and operate solution where we install our system at the client location with no capital required from the user, and they only pay the bottles that they are using. Of course, the challenge, one of the biggest challenge we faced is that the hotels, they prefer to focus on their core activity rather than produce drinking water. It required the new mindset to trigger the sense of ownership and responsibility of the operators. The budget allocation is also a problem. We all know that the tourism sector is still recovering, so we had to develop a financial mechanism to allow installing our system without any investment from the user. And today we can have our own team operating our bottling plant at the user location. And as part of our performance commitment, we also undertake all the required certification, licenses, and permits. Of course, our vision is to use the hospitality sector's leadership as a launching ramp to reach out to the larger public and to familiarize with the technology and the solution. We will focus on hotels in Jakarta and Java area first and quickly expand to the rest of Indonesia. And this concept is and will be applicable to other sectors as industrial zones, commercial buildings, apartment and housing, public institutions, sport leisure facilities. So thank you very much for your attention, and we are looking forward to hear from you. If you have any question, this was my last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. Thank you so much to all the organizations for all your sharings. It's been a really fruitful conversation, and it's been a really great end to our first theme here in our Spotlighted Solutions. Thank you to all our presenters for the insightful sharings on innovative solutions. You have showcased to us how innovation plays a huge role in overcoming plastic pollution problem. Now, it's time to go to the Q&A segment. So can I please ask for all of our speakers to please turn on their cameras and come back onto the stage with me. So I have Kian here, I have Nicholas, Dr. Wirachad, Bintang, if you could turn on your cameras. We have some exciting questions coming up from our chat box here. Okay, so I'm just checking how much time we have. I think we'll at least do one question per speaker. And apologies for those of you if I don't get to your question, we'll still try to answer your question somehow, okay? All right, so I'm gonna actually pose the first question to Nicholas, since you've just finished, Nicholas. No break for you.
Yeah, sure.
So over to you. What is the biggest hurdle preventing hotel establishments from going for your product and for your organization's work? What are the limitations when you extend to other sectors as well?
Definitely, the biggest challenge initially was the capex requirements and to invest in such a system. Even though the mission was clear and the commitment to sustainability was clear, it looked like an additional burden for the operators. Despite we providing all the required training, technical assistance, and after-sales service, it still required the user to have their operator learning a new system and learning a new activity. This is why today we are providing a solution where we would be the one operating the system at the client's location. With no investment and just a model where the user pay as he is using. So this is definitely spinning up both the negotiation process and the time for getting the finances for this project.
Thank you, Nicholas, for sharing. All right, back to you, Dr. Rearchat. I think this is a question from one of the audience members. What is the decomposting rate of the products that you have within freshwater and seawater?
Normally the freshwater, normally we can decompose in 45 days, but if you do in the freshwater, it's a little bit quicker, faster, about 30 to 40 days. But for the seawater, it's a little bit longer, about 50 to 60 days. Kind of that, but it's quite like 30 to 60. This the thing that compose the same as other normal fiber is like this.
Thank you for sharing. And just a reminder, we are still taking questions. So if you have any further questions, please drop them down in the Q&A and we'll get to them as well, okay? All right, moving on to you, Kian. What is preventing investors and entrepreneurs from jumping into the sector to scale further?
Sorry, I missed that. Can you repeat that again?
Of course. What is preventing investors and entrepreneurs from jumping into this sector at scale?
Well, I believe that when you look at the let's scope the question. I think it's plastic recycling as a whole, or is this regarding the pyrolysis at scale? I just want to be sure of the scope.
Let's go specific. There was no specific area, but let's go with the latter. With your.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I think for pyrolysis, number one is the investment, because it does require a longer ROI. If let's say it is a big investment, if let's say the ROI is short, then it's shorter. Then you are able to actually get interested investor to actually invest in this. So part one is always the investment. Part two, it's really the understanding of that feedstock, knowing what to do, how to separate that, pre-treat and prepare the material so that it actually have that consistency. So the accessibility and also to be able to prepare that. That's the second challenge. And the third one, it's then the experience to be able to run the pyrolysis process. And to be a pyrolysis operator, you really need to have a good understanding of the feedstock, of the process, and what is the final outcome or what is the final output in terms of its quality, so that the off-taker could actually spec that in. So I think these are the three main parameters or issues that needs to be addressed.
Thank you so much, Kian. Over to you, Bintang at COIMPAC. How is the business scalable given the seemingly laborious method of cleaning for recycling of the bottled packaging?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So that's why we are currently developing a cleaning machine. I think we are adopting from several established cleaning machine and then trying to modify that so that it's able to accommodate our type of packaging. And then it's a combination between labor as well as a machine. And the packaging is very easy to clean because we're only selling products that is not very viscous. So it's easy to clean, not provide leftover of the products inside the packaging. So it's also very, very quick to be clean. At certain level, you will reach unit economics of this process when you are combining the cleaning machine as well as labor on that process.
Thank you, Bintang. And I think I'll just stay with you here for a moment, Bintang. I know that a lot of your work is actually, you're working with other organizations and you're working with other partnerships as well in order to kind of scale up your work as well. So maybe if you can share with us some key learnings on working with partners in developing alternative packaging materials.
Yeah, so we are working with Alpla, a packaging producer based in Austria. So basically, you share the same vision and mission. Like they are really promoting, developing an alternative for packaging. So it's not just alternative material, but also the alternative delivery system. In this case, we are choosing to focus on reusable packaging, and it's still using plastic for a couple of reasons, because of course that is cheaper, light as well, and again it's also easy to clean. The problem is not the plastic itself, in my opinion, but also the habit of throwing away this plastic. But yeah, trying to educate, that's really the market. It's really the main challenge, where you have to make them reuse this packaging multiple times rather than the material itself.
Thank you so much, Bintang. And Dr. Rearchat, I just wanted to come back to you with a couple more questions before we end off. Because have you okay, sorry, I'm just thinking about how to ask this question. A life cycle assessment of products is normally done, right? So I just wanted to ask of your life cycle assessment of your products, to assess your products and the impact of your products. Have you been able to determine whether it is truly improved over the past few years since you've been doing this? You're on mute, Dr. Rearchat. Dr. Rearchat, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yep. You mean that how we expand this kind of product to let people know about this, right? I think yes. At first, we have a problem because this is alternative product, and we have to educate people a lot that our product can substitute plastic. And it's good enough to do it. At first, we have a big gap of price, but because of the force of the world and the people have studied more about this, so the economy of scale we have less gap, and now people more and more love to use it because they know that's good for your health and good for the world also.
Thank you, Dr. Rearchat. And maybe I know you have to head off in a minute, and I'll come back to the rest of the speakers in just a moment. But just one last question for you before you head off. Would this packaging materials be cost effective? You discussed how there was a gap before, right? So would this packaging of materials be cost effective? And if it raises the overall price of the products, why and how do manufacturers would be interested in adopting this material? So I think you shared a little bit, but how are they adopting these materials?
Can you ask again, please?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So would this packaging of the materials that you're using be cost effective? Because it is rising the prices of the other products, right? So why would manufacturers be interested in adopting your products?
Agricultural waste. It's agriculture. It's normally we use agricultural waste. It's agricultural waste, and we have a lot of agricultural waste. They don't have no cost if you use the waste from the agriculture. Yes, but the logistic and the way we produce it have some cost. If we can lower down the cost and do some pre-process of this, now more and more is cost effective for that.
No, that's super great to hear, Dr. Rearchat. And maybe before you head off, I will come back to the other questions with the other speakers, but I know you have to jump off. Can we just take a quick photo with you and the other speakers for the innovation track? So if I could just get you guys to smile for 3, 2, 1. One more, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Dr. Rearchat. It's been really great to have you. I will now go to the rest of the speakers with more questions your way.
Thank you. Yes, bye-bye.
Thank you. So maybe if I could just come back to you, Kian. What is the primary feedstock for your process? Are there certain plastics you avoid, or are there other plastics that are better for your process as well?
A really good question here. The primary feedstock that we are using will be, consumer packaging polymers. This would be polypropylene, polyethylene, polystyrene. For example, this will actually give a good yield of the and a good quality of the circular naphtha. There are certain, you're right, there are certain polymer that which we will avoid, such as PVC, simply because, PVC will cause a formation of dioxin, which is a toxic gas emission. Likewise, even for some of the polymer, we will need to be mindful if they generate too much oxygen or, in the oil itself, which will then oxidize the pyrolysis oil and therefore creating a lower quality oil. So we are we do have to pre-treat and select our base very carefully.
Thank you so much for sharing, Kian. Back to you, Nicholas from PIPA. How do you address the perception among hotel guests on hygiene and cleanliness associated with the branded bottle?
Yeah, this is extremely important, and this is a key parameter in the success of such solution. So it starts from a very deep communication program internally with the hotel. And then, for example, in MCC, we have been in Mercure and Charles, we have been very transparent, and the production site of the water has big windows to allow the guests, for example, to come and look at the production process from the outside. We have some communication panel to talk about the technology that is being used, about the hygiene processes, about the cleaning and the sterilizing of all the equipment and all the tools, just to guarantee there is no possibility for contamination. But clearly, communication is extremely important, and we're transparent in the technology we use and the process that we are using. We have to make sure that the users are confident using the drinking water. Thanks to our long experience in Indonesia, we know that, technology is one thing, but operating procedure and the operators themselves are the key for the success of this type of systems.
Thank you, Nicholas. Maybe just one more question for you here. And I think this is quite interesting, as I know in Indonesia, there's many small islands, right? So is it viable to apply the solution in a small island tourism context as well?
Well, yeah, it absolutely makes sense.
I think we may have lost Nicholas, so we will come back to him once he's back online. So maybe just one more question for you, Bintang, as well. I think this question is quite interesting. Do the final consumers pay to ship back their empty packaging, or is it a free service?
So yeah, there are two types of services. First is when the customers are purchasing in our retailers. In that case, they are bringing the empty packaging back when they are repurchasing. And the second one is the home delivery service. Usually the customers will pay for a delivery cost, but at certain amount of order, we will provide them with free delivery cost. And then usually during the delivery of the products, we are also taking back the empty packaging. So basically the courier is not bringing empty back when they are returning to our hub. So that's how the logistic process works at the moment.
Thank you for sharing, Bintang. All right, maybe I can just pass it back to Nicholas before I send off you all with one closing question. Over to you, Nicholas.
All right, I'm back. To answer quickly, we could, yes, it makes sense to install in small island. It all comes down to the cost and what is the current cost of purchasing water for this small hotel. Is he importing water from other bigger island? Is the water available on his island? does he have the operator? But we are going through all this questionnaire and evaluation with the client, and I'll be very happy to hear from the concerned person, and we will then evaluate the possibility to install the system. But we are very flexible on the capacity, on the size and the design, just to make sure that every user can benefit from this solution.
No, thank you for sharing, and thank you for everyone here for sharing your insightful innovation solutions, and thank you for answering all the quite difficult questions, actually. I will pose one last question that's actually come from the audience as well for all of you to answer. And that question is, how can the consumer be convinced of the urgency for using environmentally friendly products, as these products are generally a higher price? So maybe we can start with Nicholas, as you were the last one to present earlier, and then we'll go backwards from there.
Yeah, it can seem many times an innovative solution come with a hefty price, but in the situation of drinking water, we are used to paying a crazy premium on bottled water. It's way too expensive what we are paying, and when we look at the possibility of purifying our own water that is available from the municipality, it's actually much cheaper. And especially if you are scaling up in terms of volume, it's not costing more.
Thank you so much. Bintai, if I can pass it over to you.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things. First is, of course, as we are working bottom up, basically we are providing the solution, having multi-stakeholders partnerships, like, for example, COIMPACT with the FMCG companies to provide more affordable products, because we are working directly with the producers. I think that will at some point even decrease more the cost of the product and eventually the selling price of the product itself. Even in our case, when people are returning the packaging, they get even more cheap products. So it really depends on type of products as well. And second, of course, the legislation. We have seen a lot, great examples in Indonesia to ban plastic bag. I think it's also very important. So we have like top down as well as bottom up approach to make people are eventually switching to this more environmentally friendly solution.
Thank you, Bintang. Last but not least, over to you, Kian.
I'll try to make it short and try to make it quick. I think, if we look at the entire consumption cost for linear consumption, because after we consume the product, we throw it away, and if we do not control the entire journey after the consumption, most of the time the cost, the actual full consumption cost is going to be high. If, let's say, the scrap has gone to landfill, river, ocean, or even open fire, and if we look into the entire context, then that is a very high cost. It doesn't incur to the consumer directly, but it is a very high cost to the society, to the country, or to the world. Now, in a circular, or if we look into a full circularity type of product, it's being designed, made, consumed, collected back to be recycled, then, all this can actually, because it's under control, then the overall cost is actually lower. Now, for us as an integrated plastic recycler, we collect back all this plastic scrap. And what we do is that we mechanically recycle them so that it can be made and used again. And hypothetically, actually, a rule of thumb is that plastic polymer can be recycled 7 times, mechanically speaking. After 7 times, the molecular structure collapses. Then we can use our chemical recycling to convert that into a circular polymer. And then we make into a new circular polymer to convert that into naphtha. And we then convert and make new plastic polymer again. So then, with this, you can actually have that 7 cycle happening again. So essentially, that 7 cycle of mechanical recycling plus 1 cycle of chemical recycling, that can happen forever. technically speaking. So all we have to do as stakeholders is coming together. It's almost like being a juggler and juggle all this in the air so that the 7+1 can happen forever. And if we were to divide that out, then definitely from a GSG emission point of view, it will be the lowest and the cheapest for the generation to come, for the society and for the world.
Thank you so much for that sharing. So fruitful. So that comes to an end for our Q&A session. I would like to once again, thank you, Kian, Bintang, and Nicholas, and of course, Dr. Wirechat for the sharing about your innovative work today and your organization as well. It truly has been a very fruitful discussion today and a fruitful conversation so far. And we're really looking forward to hearing more from other organizations tomorrow about their impactful solutions in inclusion and collaboration theme. Before we go, I am honored to introduce our speaker who will be giving the closing remarks from today's session. Dr. Mushtaq Ahmed Memon, Regional Director for Resource Efficiency at the UNEP Asia Pacific Regional Office. Dr. Mushtaq has been working with UNEP since 2005 with more than 17 years of experience here. He leads UNEP's COVID-19 response on COVID-19 waste management. He is also the project manager of the UN-funded Switch Asia. He led the low carbon lifestyle challenge startups. He has published multiple papers in international journals and participated in major global events and delivering various training programs. Over to you, Dr. Mushtaq.
Thank you, Dan. And so it's really a pleasure. Just 1 second. Yeah. So today, I mean, it was really, really interesting discussions and very helpful. But first of all, I really want to thank His Excellency John Ostrom, the Ambassador of Sweden to Thailand, and because he's really behind this whole work and the project and support system, and thus our sincere thanks to SIDA and Government of Sweden. And then also all the speakers, panelists, and who really came together, and especially looking on the circular solutions and putting the spotlight and so on. And then as we have reached on the day one's conclusion, on the behalf of organizers, I really want to thank each and every one of you in taking today's at the 4th annual Sea of Solutions, the annual event of Sea Circular. This is a joint initiative by the UN Environment Programme and also the coordinating body of the Seas of East Asia, COBSEA. And as I mentioned, supported by Government of Sweden. So when we are talking about this today, what we really got out of today was very, very inspiring. As we saw the innovative solutions and we heard about seeing the opportunities in plastics by utilizing or employing those innovative solutions, where most of people see only a major challenge as a plastics, but we see it also a great opportunity to work together through those solutions. These presentations summarize the first day of the Sea Solution 22 very well, as we see the concrete actions to build a circular plastic economy, and that's taking place, and where SMEs play an important role in leading the way. It is important to support the ongoing innovations and provide an enabling environment through the tools, because the policy, finance, and also the technology tools, in addition to the awareness raising and information, are key for the circular solutions, engaging especially the SMEs. In today's spotlight on innovative solutions to prevent plastic waste, we saw solutions from nature-based packaging by the transformation of marine litter into the useful materials, by making available refilling networks for home care and personal care products to avoid single-use packaging, as well as the microplastics, and by confronting the challenge of providing clean drinking water without disposable plastic packaging. Some even empower micro entrepreneurs and educate the public about the reduction of single-use packaging and the positive environmental impact of the circular solutions. So with less than a week to go before the stakeholders and member countries get together in Uruguay to negotiate a legally binding instrument to beat plastic pollution and its sources, and as Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee's first meeting in Uruguay is going to be organized from 29th, we see that today's discussion basically helping towards that. It has highlighted several aspects that should be considered when transitioning to a circular plastic economy is our goal. The main goal is clear. The plastics value chain has to become circular by eliminating unnecessary and hazardous plastics, designing plastic products on the circular lines, ensuring sustainable ways to recover and recycle plastics to manage appropriately non-recyclable plastics, because still many countries lack the technologies, lack the capacity to recycle all type of plastics. The keynote speech from the Christine Hughes, the director of the Global Plastic Action Partnership and member of the Executive Committee of the World Economic Forum, highlighted resource circularity and national and international action plans, which I can only agree on, as we see this lot of momentum is already being built. We need to focus on a holistic resource circularity model to reduce virgin plastic production, to increase recycling rates, and reduce plastic waste leakages into the environment. Recycling is not a silver bullet, as we all know, for the plastic pollution crisis. The circular plastic economy needs more financial and economic incentives, as well as increased investments and international implementation plans, such as being discussed through the NCs focusing on the legally binding instruments on plastic pollution. As we saw in follow-up to the keynote, we had chance to turn our eyes to regional level, hearing from the excellent panelists, representative stakeholders from the public and private sector. Science and research and youth are the key, as Asia Pacific is at the heart of the problem, as well as a major opportunity for ending the plastic waste, especially in the marine environment, and as we are focusing also on the plastic-free rivers in the region. The panel discussion also, speakers, they agreed that there's a need to be inclusivity and the engagement of the civil society when considering the instruments. The instruments should protect all workers in value chain, such as the waste workers, and consider gender and equity, those who are involved. The availability of transparency and data and the sharing of technology can help in resetting the policies and solutions to help governments and those in private sector. We can make the decisions about how to reduce plastic production and increase recycling. The speakers also hoped that the instrument can make available funding and finances, which are really required to support the communities, and the solutions that can contribute to planning and capacity building of the waste collection and recycling. As we will go into the day 2, we are hoping the Sea of Solution will continue tomorrow with the chance to learn more from the inclusive and collaborative solutions from different parts of Southeast Asia. We also looking forward tomorrow for the thematically focused areas, as these are important topics, often does not get attention, and how we can ensure beating plastic pollution and building a circular economy in truly inclusive manner, and take into account human rights and gender equity when we talk about the plastic circularity. The current linear plastic economy and the problems around plastic pollution disproportionately impacts the marginalized communities including the vulnerable classes like gender, children, and so on. Therefore, day 2 will turn the spotlight on solutions that work towards the circular economy without leaving anyone behind, which is a key to achieve Agenda 2030. A number of experts and businesses will come together tomorrow in a panel discussion on the importance of a human rights-based and gender-responsive approach in plastic circularity. We will also have a chance to hear about circular plastics solutions that have made good progress through collaborative efforts and academia, local governments, and actors in the field. So I hope we all come together again tomorrow with a rather more motivated fashion to really look from the inclusive way of this plastic circularity and leaving no one behind. At that note, I again want to thank all the speakers, participants, but more importantly, my colleagues, and especially Kamala, Vincent, Natalia, Maria, they all are the really behind all this. And so I really want to thank all those colleagues, Mahesh and everyone, and looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. I hope you can enjoy the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mushtaq. Before we close off, if I could get Dr. Mushtaq back onto the spotlight so we can take a quick picture of you during this session as well. So in 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Dr. Mushtaq, for your closing remarks. With that, we have come to an end of day 1. Before you leave, we would like to ask for you to fill out our feedback survey, which Ben and also Erin has flashed on the screen, but also has put into the chat box. Please do join us tomorrow for more insightful conversations and sharing from our keynote speakers and other organizations from the Inclusion and Collaborative track at 1 p.m. Bangkok time. Please use the same link that you used today, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Please do fill out the survey, and we'd like to thank everybody for using the chat box to engage with one another and asking such wonderful questions. Thank you again, everybody. Please do again fill out the survey for us.